Chapter 2053. But soon, another piece of news came. It was said that the masters of the Qin family who broke into the Holy Maiden tribe had been buried on the mountain of the Holy Maiden tribe. Yun Luofeng even tied the bodies of the Qin family to the gate of the East Continent city as a public display. This news scared everyone. No matter how they thought about it, they didn't think that it would end like this. The Lord of the South Continent was even more shocked. It must be known that when the East Continent sent people over, they were kicked out by him. It was to not get involved in this mess, and also to tell the masters of the Qin family that he had nothing to do with them. In his impression, Yun Luofeng could not fight the Qin family. But what was the situation now? The masters of the Qin family were all dead? Yun Luofeng still had such strong masters in her hands? Lord! The old man who had given the idea to the Lord of the South Continent was also shocked by this news. He said softly, "What should we do now? What else can we do? If it weren't for your idea, I would not have offended Yun Luofeng." The Lord of the South Continent's face was very ugly. He suddenly gritted his teeth and said, "Immediately send someone to the Holy Maiden tribe, and take our family treasure to apologize." Yes, Lord. Now, this was the only way to ease the relationship between the two sides. In addition to the Lord of the South Continent, other forces obviously thought of this, and immediately sent people to the Holy Maiden tribe to ask for an audience. However, when they arrived at the Holy Maiden tribe, Yun Luofeng and the others had already returned to the Jun family. So, they could only come up empty. But no one was discouraged, and rushed from the Holy Maiden tribe to the Jun family. At this moment, outside the Jun family's gate, there was a hubbub of voices. Everyone was poking their heads out, but no one dared to force their way into the Jun family's residence. The Jun family guard was like a door god, standing in front of everyone like a mountain, looking cold and serious. Miss Yun has said that no one will see anyone who asks to see her. In the face of the Jun family's unreasonable guards, no one dared to forcefully resist. In a weak voice they said, "We have brought expensive gifts to see Miss Yun, to apologize for our previous mistakes. Could you please make an exception and let us in?" Apologize? The Jun family guard sneered. Where were these people when the Jun family needed help? Now that Yun Luofeng had returned and killed the experts of the Qin clan to set an example, in the end, these people appeared again? You want to reap benefits without facing danger? How could there be such a good thing in this world? What kind of status does our Miss Yun have? Why would she care about your gifts? Get out of my way! Everyone's expressions stiffened. Indeed, with Yun Luofeng's status, she might not be able to take a fancy to the congratulatory gifts they had sent. However, these congratulatory gifts were already the most valuable things she could take out. Everyone. A man stepped forward slowly and cupped his fists. "I'm from the South Continent. Our continent master has ordered me to present the South Continent's heirloom. Furthermore, I'm willing to have the South Continent listen to Miss Yun from now on." The South Continent's continent lord was smart for once. If he wanted to resolve Yun Luofeng's grudge, perhaps there was only one way. That was to be her slave for the rest of her life. Unfortunately, she thought too highly of herself. Yun Luofeng even had divine lords under him. How could he possibly care about a tiny South Continent? Sure enough, after hearing this, the Jun family guard smiled coldly. "Who do you think you are from the South Continent? Didn't you run faster than anyone back then? When the East Continent went to the South Continent for help, didn't you still beat them out? Now you still want to be Miss Yun's slave? Dream on." Chapter 2054. The man's face was ashen. He had never been humiliated like this before. Especially when the other party was just a guard. But who asked this guard to be a member of the Jun family? And the Jun family was under Yun Luofeng's protection? No matter how dissatisfied he was, he could only endure it. "You really can't." Whoosh! Just as the man's voice was about to fade away, a cold and handsome figure swept in from the door. Yun Yi's strong muscles reflected dazzling light in the sun. He stood straight at the door, and a pair of indifferent eyes swept over the group of people in front of him. "Whoever dares to stay here will be killed without mercy." As soon as the words "killed without mercy" were uttered, Yun Yi's aura spread out. His face was full of murderous intent. Just a glance from his murderous eyes was enough to make people tremble in fear, as if their hearts were being squeezed, making it hard for them to breathe. "Get lost." As soon as this word was uttered, the group of people did not dare to stay. Like birds scattering, they quickly disappeared. It was as if they were afraid that if they left even a second later, they would be killed by this terrifying man. Yun turned to look at the June family guards and ordered expressionlessly, "My master is resting, no one is allowed to disturb him. If these people come here to disturb my master again, don't let any of them go." The June family guards were aware of Yun Yi's strength, so of course they did not dare to disobey his orders. More importantly, they had long been unhappy with those fence-sitters. If it wasn't for the fact that the June family's authority forbade them from wantonly hurting people, they would have already done it. But now that they had Yun Yi, things were different. The eyes of the June family guards lit up at this thought. June family. On top of a rockery, Yun Luofeng's body leaned lazily against Yun Zhao's chest. Her eyes were half closed as she looked at the sun in the sky. "Yun Xiao, I've been fighting all these years. Moments of peace like this are rare." Her hand gently stroked her abdomen, the corners of her lips curling up slightly. Moments of peace like this were too rare. Perhaps, only after he had completely dealt with his enemies would he be able to completely relax. "I'll accompany you. Whether it's in battle or in seclusion, I'll always be by your side. I'll never abandon you in this life. And our child." Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and said with a faint smile. Yun Xiao frowned. "It's fine as long as I accompany you." He didn't want his son to disturb their time together. "What about him? In the future, we can have another daughter to accompany him, or let him find a wife. In any case, it was fine as long as he didn't pester his phone." Yun Luofeng's eyebrows twitched. If this unborn child knew of this matter, he would definitely cry. Before he was even born, he was already despised by his father. Of course, Yun Xiao didn't really despise this child. It was just that when children grew up, they would definitely have their own lives. At that time, he only hoped that he could be together with Yun Luofeng. He didn't want this child to pester Feng all day. "Master." Just then, Fire's excited voice sounded out from within his soul. "Master, master, the dragon saliva tree has produced fruit." The dragon saliva tree was the congratulatory gift that Chen Yuqing had given her. This dragon saliva tree was special and required the urine of the ancestral dragon to grow. Fortunately, after being watered by the little worm, the ambergris tree finally bore fruit. Chapter 2055. Thinking of this, Yun Luofeng's face flashed with joy. "What's the matter?" Yun Xiao asked when she saw the joy on her face. "The dragon saliva tree has grown fruit. Yun Xiao, let's go to the divine grimoire space now." In the divine grimoire space, apart from Hong Wan's corpse, only Fire and the little worm were looking at the dragon saliva fruit. Cha-Cha could not stay any longer and had already gone out to play with the small tree. The Rat Clan was not in the divine grimoire space either. As for Xiao Mo, he went on a date with Lin Ruabai, so he threw the task of guarding the dragon saliva tree to Fire and went on his own. As soon as Yun Luofeng entered the divine grimoire space, he found a towering tree. On the tree, there were vermilion fruits that looked delicate and alluring. "Master," Bai Xiao appeared behind Yun Luofeng and looked at the dragon saliva tree with eyes full of hope. "Can you give me a dragon saliva fruit to eat? If I eat this dragon saliva fruit, maybe I can appear in human form like the small tree." Yun Luofeng looked at Bai Xiao and nodded slightly. He plucked a dragon saliva fruit from the tree and threw it to Bai Xiao. "Eat this dragon saliva fruit and tell me what effect it has." Bai Xiao's face was full of joy, but her eyes were full of disbelief. She had only mentioned it and did not expect Yun Luofeng to really give her the dragon saliva fruit. This was a divine item that people fought for thousands of years ago. Bai Xiao hurriedly swallowed the dragon saliva fruit. When the dragon saliva fruit entered her body, a storm of advancement appeared on her body. As the tree of life, its only use was to produce fruit of life for people to consume. Moreover, it was invincible inside the tree of life's body. However, that was not the case. To the outside world, Bai Xiao did not have much power and her strength was not very strong. It could be said that she was the weakest among Yun Luofeng's subordinates. However, after eating the dragon saliva fruit, her strength rose rapidly and only stopped when she reached the ultimate god realm. Yun Luofeng was stunned. A dragon saliva fruit actually had such power? It could help Bai Xiao break through to the ultimate god realm in an instant? "Master, I think I roughly know the function of this dragon saliva fruit." Bai Xiao's eyes were filled with joy. After a long while, she calmed down and looked at Yun Luofeng. The power of the dragon saliva fruit is to stimulate one's potential without limit, but the consequence is that one will not be able to cultivate for the rest of their lives. In other words, even if Bai Xiao reached the ultimate god realm after consuming the dragon saliva fruit, she would not be able to break through in this lifetime. Even so, the effect of the dragon saliva fruit was still very strong. He was able to stimulate a person's unlimited potential. In other words, the highest level that Bai Xiao could break through in her life was the ultimate god realm. Even without the dragon saliva fruit, she could only reach the ultimate god level. Therefore, the dragon saliva fruit did not bring much harm to spiritualists, only benefits. Oh, that's right, Bai Xiao seemed to have thought of something and added, this dragon saliva fruit also has a limit. No matter how strong your potential is, you can only reach Sir God at most. It's impossible to break through to real God with the help of the dragon saliva fruit. Originally, Yun Luofeng had planned to let Yun Xiao consume it. With Yun Xiao's talent, it was only a matter of time before she became a true god. However, Bai Xiao's words were like a basin of cold water, calming Yun Luofeng's heart. Fire, think about it. Do you want to consume this dragon saliva fruit? Chapter 2056. I want to take it. Fire did not hesitate. It's not that easy to become a true god. I don't want to become a true god either. So, I'm willing to take the ambergris fruit. All right. Yun Luofeng passed the fruit in his hand to Fire. Then you can eat it now. Fire nodded his head without hesitation. He took the soul fruit and consumed it. Her talent was impressive, so with the help of the ambergris fruit, she and Bai Xiao also broke through to the ultimate god realm. Yun Xiao, help me plant all the ambergris fruit on the tree. I'll improve the overall strength of the Yun family and the Jun family now. Unfortunately, Jun Fengling and Yi Jingchen were not there. Otherwise, with their talent, they might be able to break through to the Divine Lord realm. After leaving the Divine Grimoire space, Yun Luofeng asked Fire to inform everyone to wait for him in the hall. After giving the instructions, she and Yun Xiao slowly walked towards the direction of the main hall. At that moment, the hall was bustling with activity. Jun Lintian and Old Master Yun were talking about something, but their faces were full of emotion. Suddenly, the entire hall quietened down when they saw a handsome man and beautiful woman walking towards them. Little Yun Xiao, you're here? Jun Lintian smiled and spoke with a gentle look in his eyes. However, you've called us here in such a hurry. What do you want to discuss? Yun Luofeng shrugged and smiled at Yun Luo. Grandpa, I've recently cultivated a seed. I plan to let you eat it. A seed cultivated by his precious granddaughter? Old Master Yun's eyes immediately lit up. To him, anything his granddaughter produced would never be bad. Therefore, when Yun Luofeng stretched out his hands, Old Master Yun was like a hungry wolf pouncing on its prey. Without asking about the use of the fruit, he picked it up and took a bite. The fruit was full of fragrance and flowed between his teeth. Old Master Yun smacked his lips and swallowed the rest of the fruit without hesitation. He looked very satisfied. This fruit tastes good. How many more do you have? Give me a few more. Unexpectedly, as soon as Old Master Yun finished speaking, there was a loud bang and a storm emerged from his body, scaring everyone. This storm had been going on for a very long time. Even after reaching the high-level Saint Monarch realm, it didn't stop. In the end, he broke through to the Divine Spirit realm in one go. Yes, Old Man Yun had become a deity. This revelation stunned Old Master Yun. He still didn't know what had happened. He looked at Yun Luofeng in a daze. The others could no longer sit still and stood up one after another. Jun Lintian was so excited that he couldn't even speak properly. Is this a god? Old Master Yun had become a deity? That's right, this is the power of the gods. Gods? What was going on? Old Master Yun's potential wasn't great, but it wasn't too bad either. Although Old Master Yun's strength was low previously, that was because he was born in the most backward place in the Roaring Dragon continent. In addition, he was now old and unable to cultivate as he wished. If he had been born in a place like the Wind and Cloud continent, then the final level he could reach would be the Divine Soul. It was because the Roaring Dragon continent was too backward that his potential could not be stimulated. This is the Dragon Breath Fruit. Its effect is to stimulate a person's potential. The level you can break through to depends on your own potential. Yun Luofeng's lips curled. However, the consequence is that after consuming the Dragon Breath Fruit, you won't be able to break through for the rest of your life. Therefore, it's up to you whether you want to consume it or not. Chapter 2057. When everyone heard this, they were stunned. Yun Luofeng meant they also had a chance to obtain the dragon saliva fruit? Compared to the excitement of the others, Yun Qingya had been frowning the entire time. Perhaps it was because of the recent changes that had made his heart even more determined. Fenger, if you use the dragon saliva fruit to break through, will your combat strength be slightly weaker? Yun Qingya was afraid that Yun Luofeng did not understand what she meant, so she continued to explain. For example, if the old man uses the dragon saliva fruit to break through to the divine spirit realm, will he be the weakest among the divine spirits because he used an external force to break through? If that was the case, he might as well break through himself. However, Yun Luofeng's next words dispelled his worries. Second uncle, you can rest assured. Using the dragon saliva fruit to break through is no different from a normal breakthrough. The only drawback is that your body's potential has been stimulated. No matter how much you cultivate in the future, you won't be able to break through again. These words made Yun Qingya feel at ease. A faint smile appeared on his handsome face. I want the dragon saliva fruit. In fact, Yun Luofeng could more or less guess everyone's choice. Right now they needed strength. Only with enough strength could they prevent the tragedy from happening again. Although Yun Qingya's talent was very strong. So what if it was strong? It wasn't that he wasn't willing to work hard, but the spiritual energy of the 7 continents was unable to help them break through to the divine spirit realm. Facing a colossus like the Qin family, they had no way of resisting. With the dragon saliva fruit, things would be different. Even if Yun Luofeng wasn't by their side, they could still protect this pure land. Thus, after Yun Qingya's words fell, the others also expressed their opinions. Cousin. Yun Ruoshue's eyes were very bright, and her gaze was filled with hope. I also want to eat this dragon saliva fruit. I wonder if it's possible? Just as Yun Luofeng was about to agree to Yun Ruoshue, Bai Zhao's voice sounded in his mind. Master, Yun Ruoshue is too young to withstand the power of the dragon saliva fruit. She can only eat it after she reaches adulthood. Hearing this, Yun Luofeng's gaze softened. He raised his hand and gently stroked Yun Ruoshue's head. Shue, the power of the dragon saliva fruit is too strong, and you're still too young. However, I will leave 1 dragon saliva fruit for you to consume once you've matured. Yun Ruoshue's eyes were a little disappointed, but after hearing Yun Luofeng's last sentence, they lit up again. All right, Shue is very obedient. Wait until Shue reaches adulthood before eating the dragon saliva fruit. After comforting Yun Ruoshue, Yun Luofeng distributed the dragon saliva fruits to everyone present. Except for Bai Ling. Bai Ling had already become a god lord, so the dragon saliva fruit was useless to her. Even if she had the potential to become a true god, the dragon saliva fruit would not allow her to break through. Mu Dong was a little stunned. He looked at the ambergris fruit in front of him and blinked. I have a share too? You are Grandpa Jun's friend, and at a crucial moment, you chose to stand on our side. I, Yun Luofeng, will never mistreat those who choose me. There was a smile on the woman's face. Her voice was forceful, but it caused Mu Dong's heart to tremble. In fact, when they went to the sacred maiden tribe that day, they did not help at all. At most, they made preparations to confront the Qin family. But, if they only acted this way because they knew Yun Luofeng's strength, then it was possible that they were trying to curry favor with Yun Luofeng. Chapter 2058. However, they did not know anything before this, did they? They didn't know Yun Luofeng's abilities, but they still came without hesitation when facing a colossus like the Qin family. Even if he wasn't able to help out in any way, Yun Luofeng still remembered this kind of friendship. Mu Dong no longer cared about them. He took the ambergris fruit from Yun Luofeng's hand and kept her kindness in his heart. Thus, at that moment, the sky above the Jun family was filled with continuous lightning strikes. The lightning lasted for 3 days and 3 nights before disappearing. Those who came to the Jun family to see Yun Luofeng had not left yet. They naturally saw the grand scene and decided to go back and tell their masters not to provoke anyone around Yun Luofeng from now on. Those people left in a hurry with that in mind. As they left, the news of what happened in the Jun family spread throughout the continent. The entire 7 continents were shaken because of it. Lightning? What kind of existence was that? Only the breakthrough of a divine spirit expert would attract lightning? However, there was not only one bolt of lightning in the June family. There were dozens of them. How could everyone not be shocked by this news? The people in the June family, of course, did not care about the voices outside. Yun Luofeng was afraid that the lightning would come too fast and the Azure Wings would not be able to block it in time. That would cause unnecessary casualties to those who were breaking through. That was why he asked them to break through in stages. That resulted in the lightning not stopping for 3 days and 3 nights, however. The effect of the increase in strength this time was significant. Most people had reached the heavenly god realm while Old Master Jun, Mudong, Ning Xin, and the others had reached the ultimate god realm. What surprised Yun Luofeng was that Yun Qingya was indeed worthy of being the #1 person in Long Yuan Kingdom. Her talent surpassed everyone else and reached the Divine Lord level in one go. With Yun Qingya and Bai Ling's protection in the 7 continents, the tragedy of the past would not happen again. Old Master Yun was unhappy. His face darkened as he said indignantly, "Why did all of you break through to the heavenly god realm and even the ultimate god realm? Even my son has become a divine lord, but I'm only a divine spirit? Could it be that his talent was really that bad? No." Old Man Yun glared at Yun Luofeng. "Give me another dragon saliva fruit." Yun Luofeng rolled his eyes. "Even if I gave you another one, you wouldn't be able to continue breaking through." Hearing this, Old Master Yun glared at her. "Can't I eat it as a snack?" The ambergris fruit was a divine object, but Old Master Yun said that he wanted to eat it as a snack? In this world, he was probably the only one who could say such words. "If you aren't afraid of harming your body, I won't stop you." Yun Luofeng shrugged his shoulders and said with a faint smile. Old Man Yun's voice became quiet, and he glared at Yun Luofeng resentfully. "I was only joking with you. You can't be serious, right? Instead of the ambergris fruit, when are you going to have a baby for me to play with? Give birth to a child? For him to play with?" The corner of Yun Luofeng's mouth twitched a few times. After a while he calmed himself down and said, "Did my mother not tell you that I'm pregnant?" Old Master Yun, whose face was filled with resentment, was immediately dumbfounded when he heard this. What? Did he hear wrongly? His precious granddaughter was pregnant? Jun Lintian and the others hurriedly stood up as well. Their breathing quickened as they could not hide the excitement in their hearts. Chapter 2059. Mother, haven't you told them yet? Yun Luofeng looked at Bai Ling in astonishment and asked. "I thought you said it." Bai Ling was also speechless. Even now, they still hadn't told him about Fenger's pregnancy? Old Master Yun's expression was very sad. Such important news. Yet they were all hiding it from him? "Second uncle, I'll have to trouble you with something." Yun Luofeng didn't dare to look at Old Master Yun's sad gaze and hurriedly changed the topic. "Go to the continent of no return and bring the people of the Yi family over. In addition, bring all of them back from the forest of no return." If the Qin family knew that they couldn't do anything to the Yun family, they might take a step back and find trouble with the Yi family. And she had to wipe out all possibilities in the bud. "All right." Yun Qingya nodded. "In addition, send someone to find my parents, Yi Shima, Yi Qi, and the others, and protect them. In this situation, it's very dangerous for them to be outside." The parents she was talking about were Yi Jingchen and Jun Fengling. Right now, she was most worried about them. "I understand. I will take care of this matter." Yun Qingya smiled faintly. Now that he had strength, even his words had become much more confident. "Mother," Yun Luofeng turned to Bai Ling and continued, "I'll get second uncle to find someone. As for the mission of protecting the old man and the others, I'll leave it to you. With you here, even if I leave this place, I'll be at ease." Bai Ling was slightly taken aback. "You're leaving?" Yun Luofeng nodded his head lightly in the face of Bai Ling's reluctant gaze. "The Qin family's actions are not only because I killed Qin Luo. There must be other reasons that we do not know. Therefore, Yun Xiao and I will make a trip to the spirit god continent. We cannot be in a situation where the enemy is in the dark while we are in the light." For some reason, she had a feeling that the Qin family's operation this time was definitely related to the people who had chased after Zhu Qian. Therefore, she had to make a trip to the spirit god continent. Bai Ling thought about how not only was Yun Xiao by her side, but she also had the protection of 2 divine lords by her side. "Don't worry. With me here, no one will be able to take a step into the Jun family." Yun Luofeng did not say anything else. She took out another 5 dragon saliva fruits and handed them to Bai Ling. These 5 dragon saliva fruits are for Old Master Yi, Yi Qi, Yi Shima, and my parents. Mom, please give them to them for me. After everything had been delegated, Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao looked at each other before walking out of the courtyard. Feng, when are we leaving? Tomorrow. Yun Luofeng was silent for a while. She had only cared about increasing the strength of her family, and had forgotten about the Steel Flame Legion. The members of the Steel Flame Corps had accompanied her since she was young. Their relationship was irreplaceable. Therefore, when Yun Luofeng returned to her courtyard, she summoned the Steel Flame Legion and the Rat Tribe. Even Cha-Cha, Little Mo and the rest were called back. Master, why did you call us back so urgently? Milk Tea and the others had been staying in the illusory array, so they didn't know what had happened. As for Little Mo, Yun Luofeng had already used soul transmission to explain to him. Chapter 2060. I still have 30 dragon saliva fruits left. Other than my 5 masters at West Spirit Academy, I still need to leave 3 for the people of East Continent Prefecture. So, there are 22 left. Although the 5 masters at West Spirit Academy did not teach her anything, they had always treated her as a disciple. She could not forget this kind of friendship. As for the East Continent Prefecture, no matter what the elders were thinking, at least, Hong Wan had lost her life for the Yun family. Just based on this fact alone, no matter what danger the East Continent Prefecture faced in the future, she would protect them with her life. Not to mention 3 dragon saliva fruits. Master, how do you plan to distribute these 22 dragon saliva fruits? Little Mo blinked innocently and asked. Little Mo, you, Lil White, TT, and Small Tree will each get 1 ambergris fruit. In the Rat Clan, Mouse Queen, Milk Tea, and Meng Meng will each get 1 ambergris fruit. As for the Steel Flame Legion, Qing Yan, Yi Ling, Zhonglinger, and Long Fei, the 4 of you will come forward to get the ambergris fruit. This way, there are 11 left. Qing Yan will distribute them according to talent. Whoever performs the best over the years will receive a dragon saliva fruit. No one knew what the effects of the dragon saliva fruit were, but everything Yun Luofeng took out was precious. Therefore, their eyes were filled with anticipation as they looked at her without blinking. Those who did not get the dragon saliva fruit, do not be depressed. There will be opportunities in the future. When the dragon saliva fruit tree bears fruit for the second time, I will leave this opportunity to you. After the dragon saliva fruit bore fruit once, it bore fruit a second time very quickly. Of course that was with the little worm's urine. Yes, Mississippi, Qing Yan beamed with joy. Her eyes were curved, extremely bright, and extremely cute. For more than a decade, she still could not change the way she addressed Yun Luofeng, Mississippi. But in these dozen years, Yun Luofeng had changed her. She was originally just a servant in the general's residence, often bullied. But because of her loyalty, she changed her life. Thinking of the past, Qing Yan sighed. The past was like smoke, making her feel like she was in a dream. It was so unreal. After getting the dragon saliva fruit, you guys go to the side to break through. Yun-Yi, get ready. Don't let anyone get hurt. The power of the heavenly thunder was not to be underestimated. Many people were unable to persevere during the breakthrough and were turned into ashes. Therefore, at this time, they needed the azure wings to help them resist the heavenly thunder. Only then could they successfully advance. Everyone was stunned by Yun Luofeng's words. Could eating this dragon saliva fruit cause injury? Due to their trust in their master, they swallowed the dragon saliva fruit without hesitation. Only at that moment did they understand what Yun Luofeng's words meant. The heavenly lightning appeared once again, and the sound of thunder boomed as it ruthlessly struck down. Even the house was destroyed by the heavenly lightning. Fortunately, he had the azure wings, which allowed him to resist the heavenly thunder by himself. His tall and sturdy body looked especially bright under the heavenly thunder. Of course, Yun Luofeng did not let them break through at the same time. Otherwise, there would be too much lightning, and Yun-Yi would definitely be careless. When the heavenly lightning disappeared, those who had broken through were dumbfounded. Perhaps they didn't understand what was going on. Chapter 2061. Undeniably, the group of people under Yun Luofeng had become extremely powerful after being watered with elixirs for many years. Therefore, everyone had reached the ultimate god realm. If they were in the Fengyun continent, they would be experts in charge of a region. Yun Luofeng handed the last 11 fruits to Qing Yan. Qing Yan, choose 11 people to eat the dragon's saliva fruit. We'll leave this place after you've broken through. Yun Luofeng stretched lazily after finishing his sentence with a tired look on his face. Yun Xiao, let's go back and rest. After Yun Xiao heard this, she carried Yun Luofeng by the waist and walked into the room. She would leave the rest to Qing Yan. She was very confident in Qing Yan. Cousin. Just as Yun Luofeng entered the room, Xiao Ruoshui's little head popped out from behind the door. Her eyes darted around, and when she saw Yun Luofeng's gaze, a brilliant smile appeared on her young and tender face. Shui, what's the matter? Yun Luofeng looked at little Ruoshui's childish face and asked gently. Cousin, it's brother Wu Yan who wants to see you, so I brought him here. Wu Yan. Yun Luofeng's eyes showed a touch of doubt as if he did not know who little Ruoshui was talking about. Cousin, have you forgotten? When we were in the Wuhui continent, Sister Yi Jun and I went to the medicine tower to look for you. In the end, we were abducted and sold. Of those children who were also abducted and sold, only a small portion of them returned to their own families. Most of them stayed in our Yun family. As for brother Wu Yan, he was the one who asked you to help him remove the seal on his body. Yun Luofeng had some impression after hearing little Ruoshui's words. That day when they went to save little Ruoshui, there was a young man among the crowd. Not only did the young man reveal her identity, he also knew everything about the Wuhui continent like the back of his hand. Unfortunately, his body was sealed, so he couldn't use his abilities. Later on, the young man asked Yun Luofeng to remove the restriction. Although Yun Luofeng accepted, she did not have the ability to remove the restriction on Wu Yan at that time. Therefore, she arranged for Wu Yan to stay by little Ruoshui's side. Let him in. Yun Luofeng nodded in silence and said. Little Ruoshui's smile was extremely bright. She turned her head and said to the young man behind her, Brother Wu Yan, my cousin asked you to come in. Don't worry, she's a good person. You don't have to be afraid of her. Yun Luofeng's eyebrows twitched after hearing little Ruoshui's words. What kind of image did she have in the people's eyes? Why did Shui think the young man was afraid of her? After a while, a young man dressed in green walked in from outside. Compared to a few years ago, the immaturity on his face had faded a lot, and he looked more mature with each passing day. Miss Wu Luofeng, said with a speechless eyes shone with a bright light. His eyes were filled with anticipation, but also with some fear, afraid that Yun Luofeng would go back on his word. Luo Yun of sect. Yun I Luo He a Luo. Yun Luofeng Chen Yun. Luo Yun, Luo of Luo Yun, King, Luofeng Yun, He Luofeng, He, I Wu Yun Luo Yun. Chapter 2062. Wu Yan immediately knelt on one knee and said respectfully, In the future, Wu Yan will protect Eldest Miss with my life. With Yun Luofeng's words, he even addressed her as Eldest Miss instead of Miss Yun. His youthful and handsome face was filled with joy. Before I help you remove the seal, I have one more thing to ask you. Where are you from? Why are you in the Wuhui continent? Wu Yan stood up from the ground, his eyes filled with complexity. I'm from the spirit god continent. As for why I'm in the Wuhui continent, I was persecuted. Indeed. Actually, when he had first met Wu Yan, Yun Luofeng had not seen anyone from the spirit god continent and did not know of its existence. Therefore at that time, Yun Luofeng could not detect Wu Yan's true identity. But just now when Wu Yan had entered the room, she had sensed that Wu Yan's aura was somewhat similar to Qin Luo and the Qin family members. Yun Xiao, looks like we'll need to delay for a few days before we leave. Yun Luofeng raised his brows and looked at the man beside him. He smiled faintly. I need to remove the seal on Wu Yan first. Yun Xiao's eyes were very gentle. A woman's figure was shrouded in his pitch-black eyes. The corners of his lips curled into a slight smile. I'll wait for you. Wait for you to venture into the spirit god continent with me. Shui, you go out first. Yun Luofeng looked at Yun Ruoshui's reluctant expression and narrowed his eyes slightly. He scrutinized the youth standing in front of him. The youth's figure was as straight as a bamboo tree, standing there proudly. Yun Ruoshui pursed her soft pink lips, looked at Wu Yan one last time, then turned and walked out. She even closed the door for Yun Luofeng, Wu Yan, Yun Luofeng crossed his arms and looked at the youth's proud figure with a faint smile. Tell me honestly, what's your relationship with Shui? Wu Yan was stunned. Perhaps he had not expected Yun Luofeng to ask such a question. After a moment of silence he replied, Shui'er is still a child. I've always treated her like a younger sister. Although this was his answer, Yun Luofeng could see a flash of hesitation in Wu Yan's eyes. Is that so? She smiled and said, You're not much older than Shui. Do you really treat her like a younger sister? Speechless, he lowered his head in silence. To be honest, he wasn't very sure either. He only knew that the feeling of being with Yun Ruoshui was very comfortable. I don't care how you and Shui develop in the future, I hope that you remember one thing. Yun Luofeng slowly stepped forward, approaching the youth by 2 steps. The daughter of my Yun family is not so easy to marry. If you want to marry her, you must have the power to protect her, so that she will not be harmed for the rest of her life. Yun Luofeng's request to himself was not to stand behind Yun Xiao, but to fight alongside her. However, the reason why she worked so hard was to protect her family from harm. If Shui'er would be harmed after being handed over to Wu Yan, she might as well keep Shui'er by her side to protect her for the rest of her life. I will protect Shui'er. Wu Yan's expression suddenly turned serious as he said solemnly. I don't care what kind of background you have or where you come from. If you want to marry the daughter of the Yun family, you must be a couple for the rest of your life. You must never take a concubine. Otherwise, I will strangle Shui'er's feelings for you while they are still in a hazy stage. Chapter 2063. Yun Ruoshui was her second uncle's daughter and also her family. Even though she had not been with Shui'er for so many years, she had already taken her under her wing. How could she allow anyone to hurt her? If Shui'er and I really fall in love in the future, I'll fight for it. Wu Yan thought of his own family and paused for a moment before continuing Yun Luofeng's words. What if you can't fight for it? Yun Luofeng squinted his eyes and continued asking. If I can't fight for it, I'll come to the Yun family and become their son-in-law. Speechless sounded firm when he said that. If those people really opposed it or forced him to take a concubine, he would rather leave everything behind and accompany her to the ends of the earth. All right, I hope you'll keep your word. If you go back on your word. Yun Xiao, who was beside Yun Luofeng, released his aura as soon as he finished his sentence. Under that powerful aura, Wu Yan's face was a little pale and his body was swaying. However, he still stood firmly on the spot with his eyes blazing. This is just my request. You should know that Shui'er is the only daughter of my second uncle and second aunt. If you want to marry her in the future, you'll have to get my second uncle and second aunt's approval. Yun Luofeng stretched his body lazily. However, these are all matters for the future. I'll remove the restrictive spell for you now. All right. Wu Yan's eyes lit up. Indeed, the matter between him and Shui'er should be considered in the future. Although he had a good impression of Shui'er, it was just a good impression. No one knew what would happen in the future, right? Therefore, the most important thing now was to remove the restrictive spell in his body. The restrictive spell in Wu Yan's body was a little troublesome. The person who said it must be very powerful. If it was the previous Yun Luofeng, he would not be able to remove the restrictive spell for him. However, the current Yun Luofeng had already broken through to the ultimate god realm. The restrictive spell was not a problem for her. Even so, Yun Luofeng spent a whole day and night to remove the restrictive spell. The next day. Early morning. Speechless, he walked out of Yun Luofeng's room. He could feel the refreshing spiritual energy of the world, and his body felt so comfortable. A brilliant smile bloomed on his face. I don't know when I'll be able to return after leaving with First Mistress. Yun Ruoshui's young and adorable face surfaced in his mind, and the corners of his lips curled up. So now, I'll go and bid farewell to Shui'er. Yun Ruoshui's location was very easy to find. From afar, Wu Yan saw little Ruoshui sitting by the stream, looking bored. Little Ruoshui's arms were propped up on the ground, and her little feet were placed in the ice-cold water of the stream. Fallen flowers fell from the trees beside her, and scattered onto little Ruoshui's delicate face. Shui'er. Suddenly, a familiar voice sounded from behind Yun Ruoshui, causing her to stand up in shock. She looked at the youth in front of her, somewhat bewildered. The young man frowned. The weather is still very cold. What are you going to do if you catch a cold? Little Ruoxue was like a child who had made a mistake. She said pitifully, "Brother Wu Yan, I was wrong." Not sure if it was because of Yun Luofeng's words, the young man looked at the pitiful and adorable little girl in front of him and suddenly had the urge to kiss her hard. The young man was shocked by his own thoughts and hurriedly shook his head awkwardly, afraid that he would really do something worse than an animal. Chapter 2064. Shui, I'm here to say goodbye to you. I'll be leaving with your cousin in a while. Little Ruoxue bit her lip, her bright eyes misty. Brother Wu Yan, when will you be back? I'll be back as soon as possible. Wu Yan reached out and rubbed little Ruoxue's head. His eyes were filled with gentleness. You have to wait for me here. Little Ruoxue smiled. Her smile was very bright, like a bright sun that illuminated the hearts of people. Brother Wu Yan, you have to come back quickly. Shui, will be waiting for you at home. Looking at this little girl, Wu Yan felt a little reluctant to part with her. But he knew that no matter how reluctant he was, he had to leave her. Moreover, he wanted to make himself stronger. Only when he was strong enough could she rely on him. Wu Yan suppressed the reluctance in his heart and turned to walk in the opposite direction. He did not look back at Yun Ruoxue, afraid that if he did, he would not be able to bear to leave. As Wu Yan and Yun Ruoxue bid farewell, Yun Luofeng had also bid farewell to the Yun family. Under their reluctant gazes, he walked out of the Jun family's main door. After stepping out of the main door, Yun Luofeng looked back at the Jun family, then at the group of relatives following behind him. He sighed softly and turned to Yun Xiao. Yun Xiao, let's go to the East Continent first. All right. After saying this, Yun Xiao raised his hand and grabbed Yun Luofeng's waist. With a leap, their figures quickly disappeared under the sky, in the East Continent Prefecture. Ever since Hong Wan's death, the entire East Continent Prefecture had been shrouded in a layer of sadness. Even the residents were affected by this atmosphere, becoming much more gloomy. Even the streets were not as lively as before. At this moment, Yun Luofeng stood outside the East Continent Prefecture. She raised her head and looked at the white silk that had yet to be removed. A trace of guilt flashed in her eyes. If I had come back a day earlier, perhaps Hong Wan would not have died. Unfortunately, she had still come to the banquet. You don't have to blame yourself. Yun Xiao pulled Yun Luofeng into her arms. She's dead, but it's not impossible to resurrect her. Instead of blaming yourself, why don't we think of a way to save her together? Yun Luofeng smiled faintly. You're right. No matter how difficult the road ahead is, I will not give up. Hong Wan cannot exist in this world. At this thought, Yun Luofeng strode into the East Continent Mansion. When the people of the East Continent Prefecture saw Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao, they were stunned for a moment before they hurriedly went to inform Hong Ling. Not long after, Hong Ling slowly walked over from the courtyard in front of them. The elders of the East Continent Prefecture also came with him. In the beginning, these elders were against Hong Wan saving the Yun family. They were afraid that this would lead to the destruction of the Yun family. They didn't expect that Yun Luofeng would have such a strong cultivator in his hands. Moreover, he was an expert who had destroyed the Qin family. Furthermore, some time ago, the heavenly lightning above the Jun family's residence hadn't dissipated for several days and nights. It had shaken the entire continent. So, it was impossible for them not to know about it. Thus, all the elders felt extremely fortunate at this moment. If Hong Wan hadn't insisted, they would have offended Yun Luofeng just like the South Continent. How could Hong Ling not know what these elders were thinking? They couldn't help but sneer. They hadn't forgotten how these elders had opposed Hong Wan when she had wanted to protect the Jun family. Now, after seeing Yun Luofeng's strength, they all wanted to curry favor with him? In fact, apart from him, was there no one else in the East Island Prefecture who mourned Luaner's death? Chapter 2065. Hong Ling did not even look at the elders. She turned towards Yun Luofeng and asked, Miss Yun, is there something important that brought you here? Yun Luofeng nodded gently. With a flip of her hand, a vermilion fruit appeared in her palm. This is... Hong Ling was stunned and asked in confusion. Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a smile as he looked at her confused face. You must have heard about the heavenly lightning that struck the Jun family recently. Astonishment flashed across Hong Ling's eyes. She looked at Yun Luofeng's smiling face in shock. Do you mean that those people broke through to become deities because of this fruit? It was impossible for him not to know about what had happened in the June family. Now that he heard Yun Luofeng's words, he immediately thought of the fruit in the woman's hand. His heart immediately trembled violently. The elders' eyes were fixed on the dragon's saliva fruit. Their expressions were filled with desire. Some of them could not help but gulp, wishing that they could just pounce on the fruit and snatch it away. That's right. They were able to break through because of this dragon's saliva fruit. I left 3 for all of you. I've brought them to you this time. Hong Ling fell silent. The effects of the dragon's saliva fruit were indeed tempting. However, compared to the fruit, he wanted to revive his daughter more. Miss Yun, can you tell me if you had a way to save Luoner's body when you took it away? His eyes were filled with hope and entreaty, as well as the deep expectations of a father. Yun Luofeng raised his head and stared at Hong Ling's pleading eyes. In the end, he could not help but sigh. It's not that I don't have a way to save her, but I'm not very confident. Hong Ling's eyes lit up. Regardless of how confident Yun Luofeng was, his words had undoubtedly given him a great deal of hope. Thank you. Hong Ling's voice was a little choked with emotion. She took the dragon saliva fruit from Yun Luofeng's hand and said, I only need 1 dragon saliva fruit. You can take the rest back. It's better for you to leave such a precious item for the people around you. Although Yun Luofeng had only planned to give the East Continent Prefecture 3 dragon saliva fruits, they would still have 2 more after the Prefecture Lord took one. But now, the Prefecture Lord had given away such a precious item? At the thought of this, the elders looked at Hong Ling with grief and indignation. Hong Ling could feel the resentment in the elders' hearts, but she ignored them and pushed Yun Luofeng's hand back. Miss Yun, I'm really grateful to you. Even if you only have a sliver of hope, it's the same as giving me a reason to live on. Hong Ling gently closed her eyes. In the period of time that Hong Wan had passed away, this man, who was originally full of vigor, had actually aged a few decades. Even his straight back had gradually bent down. Once upon a time, Hong Ling had sworn to protect the East Continent for his entire life. For the sake of the Eastern Continent, he had lost the woman he loved, and even his most beloved daughter was forced to marry the son of the Northern Continent. If not for Yun Luofeng's appearance, perhaps he really would have made an irreversible mistake. However, he came to a sudden realization after Hong Wan left. What about the East Continent? What about the people? What about power? It wasn't as important as his family. If Hong Wan could return to his side, he would be willing to exchange the entire East Continent for her. Chapter 2066. You don't have to thank me. Yun Luofeng glanced at the pale-faced middle-aged man and spoke slowly. Hong Wan died to save my family. Everything I do for her is what I should do. In the future, if the East Continent is in any danger, you can always seek help from the June family. Hong Wan died to save my family. My family will do everything in their power to protect all of you. Hong Ling probably didn't know that it was because of Hong Wan's sacrifice that the Eastern Continent was able to escape the calamity that was to come because of the Yun family's protection. Since Hong Ling did not need the other 2 dragon saliva fruits, Yun Luofeng did not force her. He kept the 2 fruits and bid farewell to Hong Ling before leaving with Yun Xiao. Hong Ling stood silently at the door and watched Yun Luofeng and the others leave. She did not return to her senses for a long time. Palace Lord, why did you reject the other 2 fruits? An elder asked angrily. The opportunity to increase their strength was right in front of them, but Hong Ling had rejected it. How could they not feel resentful? That's right, Palace Lord. Don't you know how much our East Continent Prefecture needs to increase our strength? How could you reject such a good opportunity? You should know that this is a fruit that can create a divine being. When that time comes, our East Continent Prefecture will have 2 more divine beings. Won't you be basking in their glory? Another elder's face was full of resentment. If the other party was not the East Continent Prefecture's Palace Lord, he would have started cursing and swearing. He had seen foolish people, but he had never seen anyone this foolish. Hong Ling retracted her gaze and swept her sharp gaze across the faces of the elders in front of her. Her lips curled into a mocking smile. Don't forget how many times you've tried to get Luoner to chase the Yun family away while they've been in the East Continent Prefecture. If the Yun family had really been chased away, do you think Yun Luofeng would have given us this opportunity? The elder was immediately silenced. After a long while he said unhappily, but the Yun family was not chased away in the end. Eldest Miss even lost her life for the Yun family. Those fruits are what we deserve. Hongling's eyes gradually turned cold. First, Luaner sacrificed herself of her own accord. She didn't ask for anything in return. I, Hongling, am not someone who would extort favors from others. Secondly, Luaner and the Yun family are still in our East Continent Prefecture. That's because Luaner is a god. You can't force her out of the East Continent Prefecture. If Luaner was still the Luaner from a few years ago, would you have allowed the Yun family to stay? All the elders fell silent. What the palace lord said was the truth. They did not chase away the Yun family precisely because the eldest miss was too powerful. They did not dare to do such a thing. However, if the first miss wasn't lucky enough to become a deity, the Yun family wouldn't be able to stay in the East Continent Prefecture. If that's the case, what right do you have to ask for the dragon saliva fruit? Hong Luan held the dragon saliva fruit in her hand as she sneered at the greedy faces of these people. When he saw that those people were looking at his hand, the coldness in his eyes deepened. What? You want to join forces to snatch my ambergris fruit? Aren't you afraid of the June family's revenge? After all, this dragon saliva fruit was given to me by Miss Yun. In other words, if they stole his dragon saliva fruit and the June family found out, they would definitely not let them off. As expected. The mouths of the elders twitched when they heard Hongling's words. None of them had the guts to snatch the fruit from Hongling's hand. Besides, Chapter 2067. Hongling was their palace lord. They would not have the guts to act so rashly. Palace lord, you've misunderstood us. Why would we steal your dragon saliva fruit? The reason why I said that was to make our East Continent Prefecture more powerful. It was not for my own selfish reasons. I hope Palace Lord can understand. For the East Continent Prefecture? Hongling's heart turned even colder. Her cold eyes swept across the shameless faces once again before she walked into the courtyard of the East Continent Prefecture. At this moment, the group of elders were filled with regret. If they had not opposed the eldest miss so strongly in the beginning, perhaps the Palace Lord would not have been so heartless. In reality, this group of elders had misunderstood Hongling. Hongling had a problem with them. Not because of their strong opposition. After all, their opposition could be taken as consideration for the East Continent Prefecture. But after Hong Luan's death, the group of elders did not mourn her death. Instead, they were thinking about how to curry favor with Yun Luofeng. It's not wrong for you to want to curry favor with Yun Luofeng. The problem is, you've treated the Yun family that way. If you continue to behave in such a manner, wouldn't it give others the feeling that you're acting according to the wind? Hongling had not chased them out of the East Continent Prefecture. That was already good enough for them. How could she help them raise their powers? Yun Luofeng was naturally unaware of the events that had transpired in the East Continent Prefecture. After she had left the East Continent, she immediately headed towards West Spirit Academy with Yun Xiao. Wu Yen silently followed behind them. In West Spirit Academy, Su Wu was lecturing a disciple in the Elder's Court. When he caught a glimpse of Yun Luofeng walking in, his eyes immediately lit up. Cough cough, Shuang coughed softly and said to the young man who had just been scolded, Wu Feng, you can leave first. Yes, Elder Shuang. The young man named Wu Feng heaved a sigh of relief and walked out of the Elder's Court. Vaguely, he could hear Elder Emptiness's laughter behind him. Little Yun, why are you here? Wu Feng paused in his steps. His eyes carried a trace of doubt. He knew his master's character very well. When had he ever laughed so carefreely? What was the background of this girl whom he had addressed as Little Yun? What? Shuang glared at the emptiness. Can't Feng come back to see us old people? No, that's not what I meant. Our precious disciple came too suddenly. It's a pleasant surprise. Emptiness touched his nose and explained weakly. Wu Feng, who had already left the Elders' Council, suddenly stopped in his tracks when he heard this. Yun Lass? Fenger? Or a disciple of a few elders? Could it be? This was the peerless genius that shook the world, Yun Luofeng? Wu Feng's heart started beating rapidly. He couldn't contain his excitement at all. Heavens, so that genius was really a disciple of their academy, and he had even met her face to face. He really wanted to ask for an autograph. What was he supposed to do? However, when he thought of his master's savage personality, Wu Feng did not have the guts to step into the Elders' Council again. Little Yun, you are more considerate. Emptiness suddenly sighed. Unlike my new disciple. At that time, I felt that his talent wasn't bad. Although he couldn't compare to you, who knew that this kid loved to cause trouble. Chapter 2068. Shui Ying covered her mouth and laughed. It seems that Feng also caused quite a bit of trouble when he was around, but I've never seen you reprimand him. Shiwu rolled his eyes, his expression full of pride. Of course, even when the Yun girl caused trouble, she was still so outstanding. How could I bear to reprimand her? The corner of Yun Luofeng's mouth twitched. He glanced at Yun Xiao next to him, as if asking if she was really that easy to cause trouble. Yun Xiao had always been an honest and good child, so under Yun Luofeng's murderous gaze, she still nodded. But he added in the end, "You can cause as much trouble as you want, I will support you. Even if you poke a hole in the sky, I will use my shoulder to prop up the sky for you." Yun Xiao didn't say words of love, but when she did, it was amazing. Even these old guys who had lived for nearly 100 years couldn't help but look at the man in front of them with a look of admiration. And Yun Luofeng also put away the murderous look in his eyes when he said this. "It's been so many years, but you two are still so lovey-dovey. Have you ever considered the feelings of us single dogs?" There was a touch of awkwardness on Shiwu's face. He put his fist to his mouth and coughed. "But Yun girl, you have always been very busy. You never come to me without a reason. Tell me, what did you come to us for this time?" Yun Luofeng raised his lips. "Do you know what happened to the Jun family some time ago?" "What happened?" "It's because of the heavenly thunder. The heavenly thunder first lasted for 3 days and 3 nights, and it only stopped for a short while before it started again. So, it was impossible for these elders not to have heard of such a major incident in the Jun family." Shui Ying's eyes flashed. "Feng so many people in the Jun family have broken through to the divine spirit. Was it you who did it?" "That's right." Yun Luofeng chuckled and took the 5 dragon saliva fruits. "These are dragon saliva fruits. You can also break through after you eat them, but not to the divine spirit, but above the divine spirit. As for what realm you can break through to, it depends on your own potential." "What? Not the divine spirit? Above the divine spirit?" The few elders were scared silly, and they all looked at Yun Luofeng in astonishment. "These 5 dragon saliva fruits are for you. I still have 2 more here. If you see Ji Zhouqian and Hu Li, please pass them on to them." Yun Luofeng saw that these old men were all stunned in place, so he put the dragon saliva fruit on the table and took out 2 more. When all the dragon saliva fruits were laid out on the table, the old men finally came to their senses and immediately pounced on the dragon saliva fruits. From time to time, there were even sounds of quarreling. "Fuck, what are you guys fighting for? Everyone has a share. Don't take mine away. Emptiness, you damned old man. You like to fight with me for everything. Let me tell you, my potential is stronger than yours. Wait until I break through to a higher level than you. Just wait and see how I teach you a lesson. We still don't know who's stronger or weaker. Don't be too full of yourself." After Yun Luofeng put down the dragon saliva fruits, he turned and left, so he did not pay attention to the quarreling voices behind him. When they got the dragon saliva fruits, they realized that Yun Luofeng and his group had already gone far away. They probably did not expect that snatching this girl as a disciple back then would lead to such a generous reward in the future. Chapter 2069. She's already gone. Shui Ying sighed softly and smiled bitterly. In this life we owe her too much. To be honest, the few of them had not done much for Yun Luofeng. They had only chosen to stand by her side when she was in trouble. But because of this choice, Yun Luofeng had to repay them in such a way. Perhaps, accepting her as a disciple was the best thing I've done in my life. Outside West Spirit Academy, Yun Luofeng stopped and turned to look at the youth behind him. "Since you're from the Spirit God continent, do you have a way to enter the Spirit God continent?" The speechless youth nodded. "Only the people of the Spirit God continent know the way to enter the Spirit God continent. Moreover, you must have a token from the Spirit God continent to pass. Outsiders cannot enter the Spirit God continent. It's good that you have a way. Then let's set off for the Spirit God continent now." Spirit God continent. Qin family. In the peach forest at the back of the mountain, a woman sat on a stone, letting the fine peach blossoms fall on her shoulders. Her fine black hair fell behind her, blending into the peach blossoms in the forest. At this moment, the sound of footsteps came from behind her. She did not even lift her eyelids, as if she did not notice the people behind her. Fei. The man's voice was filled with infinite affection as it sounded from behind her. What's the matter? Mu Qingfei's voice was tired. She did not even turn her head. Fei, guess who I met when I left the spirit god continent? Qin Yuan was not angry. He slowly walked from behind Mu Qingfei to stand in front of her. At this moment, he had changed from the fierceness and arrogance that he had when he killed his way into the Sacred Maiden clan. Instead, he was like a handsome young master. I saw a little girl. Her name is Lin Ruabai. She looks very similar to you. She is also the young clan leader of the Sacred Maiden clan. A light flashed in Qin Yuan's eyes as he slowly said. Sure enough, when she heard this, Mu Qingfei's cold and distant face finally changed. She stood up with a swoosh, her eyes filled with nervousness. You saw my daughter? Fei, you've been too lonely here all these years. How about I help you bring her here? Qin Yuan's voice was full of tenderness. As long as you can smile, I don't care if she was born by you or another man. As long as you have me in your life, that's enough. After the initial excitement, Mu Qingfei calmed down again. You restricted my freedom and now you want to take away my daughter's freedom? I won't let you have your way. Fei, why are you so stubborn? For you, I've withstood so much pressure and haven't taken a wife or a concubine for many years. Why are you unwilling to accept me? Qin Yuan took 2 steps closer to Mu Qingfei. His tone didn't have any anger but helplessness. Why don't you tell me what I have to do for you to accept me? Mu Qingfei gradually closed her eyes. In this life, there was only one man in her life. In that case, how could she accept anyone else? Fei, do you know what your daughter is going through right now? A sinister look flashed in Qin Yuan's eyes, but it was fleeting. He said in a gentle tone, your daughter was deceived and willingly became that person's slave. Even the entire Sacred Maiden clan is now aware of her. So, in this case, how can you not want to bring your daughter here? Chapter 2070. Mu Qingfei's body stiffened and her clenched fists trembled slightly. Fei, you must believe that no matter what I do, it's all for your own good. For my own good? If you want to help me, then let me go. Mu Qingfei suddenly opened her eyes. Her eyes were like torches and her gaze was sharp. Except for this condition, I will agree to anything else. Qin Yuan furrowed his brows. Think about it carefully. If you're willing, I'll immediately bring your daughter here and let you two reunite. I still have to report the situation to my father. I'll come find you later. He finally looked at Mu Qingfei and turned to walk down the mountain. Mu Qingfei looked coldly in the direction of Qin Yuan's departure, and her eyes were filled with hatred. If it wasn't for the Qin family, she wouldn't have been separated from her family. It was the Qin family that separated her family and trapped her here for so many years. She only had hatred for the Qin family and the man in front of her. As long as she was given a chance, she would overthrow the entire Qin family. They would never be able to rise again. In the main hall of the Qin family, an old man sat upright. He looked at the man who was walking towards him under the sunlight, and his eyes gradually darkened. You went to the back mountain again? Qin Yuan was taken aback. Father, The old man snorted coldly, his face expressionless. Because of a woman, you became like this. Not only did he run to the back of the mountain when he had nothing to do, he had not taken a single concubine in all these years. How can you face the Qin family? Father, after meeting Fei, your son no longer wants to love another woman. Qin Yuan smiled bitterly. Back then, he was also a young genius of the spirit god continent. Many women dreamed of marrying him. Who knew that after he met Mu Qingfei, he could no longer fall in love with anyone else? If you like her, why don't you just force yourself to marry her? The old man's expression became increasingly unhappy. Is it worth it for you to become like this? No. Qin Yuan shook his head. I don't want to force her. I want her to marry me willingly. Father, I can listen to you for the rest of my life, but for her, I want to fight for it myself. The old man was so angry that his face turned red. He angrily pointed at him and wanted to curse, but for a moment, he couldn't say anything. After a long time he took a deep breath and said, Tell me, I asked you to bring that woman back. Why are you the only one who came back? Where are the rest of the Qin family? Qin Yuan's face darkened slightly at the mention of this matter. There was obvious humiliation on his face, as if he could not bear to talk about it. Apart from me, everyone else is dead. What? The old man stood up in shock, his hands trembling incessantly. Impossible, it's just a small abandoned land, how could there be such a powerhouse? You think you can wipe out the entire Qin clan? Yuan, tell me everything that happened in full detail. Then, Qin Yuan told the old man everything that had happened when he went to the Sacred Maiden tribe. Of course, Lin Ruabai wasn't aware of what was going on. Otherwise, if his father knew of Lin Ruabai's existence, it would be even more impossible for him to marry Fei. The old man's legs trembled as he listened to Qin Yuan's story. He sat down on a chair and grabbed the handle of the chair tightly. There's a divine lord in that abandoned land? I've really underestimated this woman. Chapter 2071. Divine Lord. Even in the Spirit God continent, there were only a handful of them. Father, what should we do next? Qin Yuan asked with a frown. Immediately send out a message and inform all the Divine Lords in the Spirit God continent to deal with Yun Luofeng. No matter how strong the people around her are, they can't resist so many Divine Lords. The old man quickly calmed down and ordered without batting an eyelid. What's the reason? The Spirit God continent was one entity. If an expert was born in that forsaken land, the other Divine Lords couldn't just sit back and watch. But the problem was that as long as Yun Luofeng didn't kill anyone in the Spirit God continent, that group of people wouldn't meddle. The old man frowned and pondered. Tell that group of people that Yun Luofeng already knows of the existence of the Spirit God continent and even provoked them. When the Qin family learned of this, we went to talk to her. Who knew that she would attack and kill the experts of the Qin family. She even claims that she wants to be the ruler of the Spirit God continent. Those Divine Lords are also greedy for life and afraid of death. Yun Luofeng's talent isn't bad, and she has 2 Divine Lord experts in her hands. She will definitely make many people fear her. As such, we can only strangle her while she is still budding. The old man's eyes were filled with murderous intent as he sneered. He didn't believe that he couldn't deal with that woman. Father, should we send a message to the Ancestral Dragon Clan? The Ancestral Dragon Clan was extremely powerful in the Spirit God continent. However, something seemed to have happened to the Ancestral Dragon Clan many years ago. As a result, all the dragons of the Ancestral Dragon Clan had gone into seclusion and hadn't appeared on the continent for many years. All right. The old man pondered for a moment and said, as long as you tell the Ancestral Dragon Clan that I know about the eldest lady of the Ancestral Dragon Clan, they will immediately come to help. Qin Yuan looked at the old man in surprise. He was very smart and didn't ask anything. After responding, he left. While the Qin family was busy dealing with Yun Luofeng had come uninvited and stood on the land of the Spirit God continent. The spirit energy in the Spirit God continent is indeed very rich. It's even worse than the Wind Cloud continent. No wonder the Wind Cloud continent can't produce a Divine Lord. Just as Yun Luofeng finished speaking, the little bug that had been staying in the Divine Grimoire space all this time became restless. Yun Luofeng had no choice but to let it out. In an instant, Little Worm's body was enveloped by a burst of light. When the light dissipated, an extremely beautiful little boy appeared by her side. Little bug, you can transform into a human? Yun Luofeng was surprised. Having known the little worm for so long, this was the first time she had seen him in human form. Little Worm rolled his eyes. Because she looked very cute. Even if she rolled her eyes, she still looked very cute. I'm just too lazy to appear in human form. Also, this Spirit God continent is my homeland. Can you change my name? What if the other clansmen heard this? Where would I put my face? Yun Luofeng acted as if he had not heard Little Worm's words and turned to look at Yun Xiao. Where are we going next? Just as Yun Xiao was about to reply, he suddenly felt a strong murderous intent. This murderous intent caused his eyes to turn extremely vigilant. He instantly pulled Yun Luofeng into his arms. Be careful. Chapter 2072. Just as he finished speaking, a pained dragon's roar rang out from the void. The dragon's roar sounded like it was weeping blood, filled with grief, anger and pain. For some reason, this dragon's roar caused Little Worm's body to tremble. It tugged at Yun Luofeng's sleeve tightly and said, Master, save her, please save her. In the azure blue sky, A few powerful cultivators were surrounding a giant white crystal dragon. The steel tridents in their hands were pierced fiercely into its body. Fresh blood seeped out from the thick dragon scales and rained down from the sky like bean-sized raindrops. Roar! The giant dragon let out a furious roar of grief and the entire world shook. The sky seemed to be responding to its pain. The initially azure blue sky was instantly filled with lightning and thunder as lightning tore through the void. Back then, it had suffered such heavy injuries but it still managed to escape. Let's quickly capture it now. If the other dragons of the ancestral dragon clan find out about this, we'll definitely be punished. TSK, this dragon's skin is really thick. It's still alive even after all that. Furthermore, it still had the chance to escape after being forced to cough up over 10 drops of essence blood over the past 3 months. A dragon's essence blood was extremely precious. If 1 drop was lost, they would need to rest for at least a few months before they could recover. However, this group of people had forced this dragon to cough up over 10 drops of essence blood over the past few months. This was equivalent to them exhausting their lives. More importantly, the dragon coughing up essence blood was as if its bone marrow had been sucked out. One could imagine the agony. The giant crystal dragon twisted its massive body and swept its thick tail towards the group of humans. It was very powerful and with one sweep, the group of humans stumbled back in exhaustion. Taking this opportunity, the giant dragon turned and tried to escape. However, the group of humans quickly regained their senses and chased after it again. They used the tridents in their hands to stab the giant dragon's tail fiercely. Roar! The intense pain caused the giant dragon's entire body to tremble. Fresh blood had already dyed the sky red. Its body finally could not hold on any longer and plummeted from the sky. It crashed into the forest with a loud thud and flattened the entire forest. A bean-sized tear rolled down from its eye, and turned into pearls as it rolled onto the ground. Its eyes were filled with despair and indignation. Its massive body had become unable to move due to excessive exhaustion. Was he finally going to die? It turned out that even death had become an extravagant hope for it. The gigantic dragon slowly closed its eyes. Just as its eyelids were about to close, a snow-white silhouette landed in front of it. She looked like a celestial being. Her white robes fluttered in the wind. Her expression was gentle, and even her voice was pleasant to the ears. Yun Xiao, deal with this group of people. I'll treat this ancestral dragon's injuries first. This was the last thing the dragon heard before it fainted. At this moment, it felt that its persistence was not wrong. As long as there is kindness in one's heart, it will be rewarded. The lightning and thunder also disappeared along with the dragon's coma, and the sky gradually became dusk. When the dragon woke up, a beautiful little boy stuck his head in front of it and said with a smile, "My kind, you're awake?" Same kind. The dragon's eyes were filled with confusion. Was he calling her? Oh right. Suddenly, the dragon seemed to remember something. Its mind shook and it hurriedly looked around. When it saw the white-robed woman sitting quietly on the tree, it relaxed. Chapter 2073. Thank you. The giant dragon's voice was not as rough as its body. Instead, it was exceptionally clear and melodious, like an aureole that could move one's heart and soul. Master, mistress, this dragon has woken up. Little Worm cried out excitedly. Very soon, Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao had already reached the front of this giant dragon. The giant dragon's eyes never left Yun Luofeng. Its piercing gaze made Yun Xiao frown involuntarily. Why were those people chasing after you? Yun Luofeng swept his gaze across the giant dragon and asked lazily. The giant dragon's eyes darkened. Those people were from the human Qing family. Back then, when the eldest lady of the Qing family was in danger outside, I had stepped in to save her. She was very grateful to me and allowed me to return to the Qing family with her. She even gave me a very delicious soup to drink. After I drank the soup, I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I found myself locked in a cage. Those people forced me to spit out my essence and blood every day. I refused, so they stabbed me with swords, burned me with soldering irons and used things to scrape my dragon scales. I took advantage of the time when their guard was weak to escape. If I had not run into you, I'm afraid I would have met with misfortune. This giant dragon's body was indeed riddled with wounds. A few parts of its body were missing dragon scales, causing its bloody flesh to be exposed. Now, with new injuries on top of old ones, it looked especially wretched. Are you talking about the Qing family? Wu Yan's gaze turned cold and his breathing quickened. His emotions fluctuated greatly and Yun Luofeng turned to look at him. However, Yun Luofeng did not ask any questions. Everyone had their own secrets. If Wu Yan was unwilling to talk about it, he would not probe further. However, he could guess that the Cheng family and Wu Yan were closely related. Perhaps Wu Yan was from the Cheng family and the people who had hurt him were also from the Cheng family. This group of people has really crossed the line. Little Worm was so angry that his face turned red. He said fiercely, I think that group of people from the Cheng family are not fit to be humans. They can't even compare to us spiritual beasts. At least spiritual beasts would never return kindness with enmity. The dragon blinked. My name is Long Luo. What are your names? This is my master, Yun Xiao. The one who saved you is my mistress, Yun Luofeng. Don't think that my master is a man. In reality, mistress has always been the one who calls the shots in the family. In the future, you just need to curry favor with mistress. As for me... Little Worm coughed lightly. What kind of name should he come up with to attract the attention of the female dragon? In any case, the Little Worm was definitely out of the question. However, before Little Worm could think of a domineering name, Yun Luofeng said, You can just call him Little Worm. At that moment, Little Worm's face was so black that it could drip blood. There was no need to mention the resentment in his eyes as he looked at Yun Luofeng. He wanted to woo this female dragon, so why did his master have to ruin his plans? Was he going to be a single dragon forever? Long Luo giggled. She accidentally pulled the wound on her body and gasped in pain. Recuperate here first. Once you've recovered, I will send you away, Yun Luofeng said calmly as he glanced at Hua Luo. Long Luo was stunned. She lowered her head and replied in an extremely weak voice, I'm not going back, I want to leave with you. Chapter 2074. Yun Luofeng fell silent. Seeing Yun Luofeng's expression, Long Luo thought that she did not agree to let her stay. She immediately became nervous and said carefully, I know everything. I can even be your guard. Can you let me stay? Perhaps it was Long Luo's voice that finally made Yun Luofeng move. She raised her brows slightly and looked at the giant dragon in front of her. It's not very convenient for you to follow me like this. We're here to take care of some matters. If you follow us in this form, I'm afraid you'll attract too much attention. Long Luo's eyes were bright as if they were filled with mist. When my injuries have healed, I can transform into a human. For now I can mimic. Giant dragons were born with the ability to enlarge or shrink. Just like how Little Worm often appeared in the form of a worm, Long Luo could naturally do the same. All right. Yun Luofeng said calmly, if you can hide, I'll let you follow us. Long Luo's heart leaped with joy. Then, her body was enveloped in a layer of light. Then, under everyone's gaze, her body began to gradually shrink. In just a moment, the giant dragon just now had turned into a crystal-clear little snake in the blink of an eye. The little snake stuck out its tongue and licked Yun Luofeng's hand. Its bright, large eyes were filled with gratitude. Yun Xiao, let's go. Yun Luofeng picked up Long Luo and let her coil her body around her wrist. Then, she looked up at the man beside her with a faint smile. Mistress. Seeing that Yun Luofeng and the others were about to leave, Little Worm hurriedly chased after them, as if afraid of being left behind. After a while, the figures of the group disappeared into the forest. Only the bodies lying behind them proved that someone had been here before. The Cheng family. In a luxurious and exquisite mansion, a dignified and beautiful woman sat upright. She wore a light yellow dress and looked noble and inviolable. What's wrong? You still haven't caught that dragon? The woman frowned slightly. Her tone was already extremely impatient. Eldest miss, I've already sent people to chase after Long Luo. Long Luo is heavily injured and can't have escaped far. The guard at the side said respectfully. A bunch of useless things. You can't even guard this dragon. Chung Gaoya slammed the table angrily and stood up. Her expression was furious and her eyes were filled with raging fury. I'll give you 3 days to bring Long Luo back to me. Everyone in the hall was silent. It was a long while later before a weak voice sounded from within the crowd. Eldest miss, I don't think it's a good idea for us to do this. Putting aside the fact that Long Luo is a member of the ancestral dragon clan, he has also saved your life before. We've already obtained enough essence blood. Why don't we spare his life so that he doesn't commit too many sins? The old man sighed softly. He wanted to persuade Chang Gaoya, but he received a bone-chilling gaze from her. If you want to stand at the pinnacle of the continent, you must forsake friendship. It's true that it saved me, but so what? We can only blame that dragon for being too naive. Moreover, the ancestral dragon clan didn't know about it when we captured Long Luo. If we let the tiger return to the mountain, it will only attract the ancestral dragon clan's revenge, right? The people who had wanted to continue persuading Chang Gaoya fell silent when they heard this. Indeed, if they allowed Long Luo to escape, what awaited them would probably be the ancestral dragon clan's maniacal revenge. Chapter 2075. Father has always only cared about Chang Wuyen's son. Even now that Chang Wuyen has gone missing, he only wants to find him. He has never considered that I'm also his daughter. Chang Gaoya's expression was ice-cold, and her eyes were filled with an awe-inspiring chill. Since I'm not inferior to Chang Wuyen, why can't I inherit the Cheng family? Just because I'm a woman? Chang Gaoya had no respect for her father, only hatred. All of this was because of Chang Wuyen's existence. Everyone was silent. Compared to Chang Wuyen's gentleness, Chang Gaoya was even more heartless and ruthless. She would not give up until she achieved her goal. Young mistress. At this moment, a person hurriedly walked in from outside the door and said while panting, "The experts we sent to kill Long Luo are all dead." What? Chang Gaoya stood up in shock, and her expression was exceptionally ugly. Dead? I don't think Long Luo still has that ability. Young mistress, I'm not lying. I saw the corpses of those experts with my own eyes, and they were all killed with a single blow. Under Chang Gaoya's murderous gaze, the reporting guard subconsciously wiped off his cold sweat. He had not expected that the Cheng family's experts would actually die. Who had such an ability? Could it be that those aristocratic families want to snatch this ancestral dragon from us? Chang Gaoya frowned slightly, and a cold glint flashed across her eyes. Young mistress, I found a jade pendant at the place where they died. Please take a look, young mistress. After saying that, the guard slowly walked forward and handed the jade pendant to Chang Gaoya. Chang Gaoya took the jade pendant. When she saw the shining word Qin on the jade pendant, she gritted her teeth in hatred. How dare the Qin family snatch my prey from my hands? They're simply audacious. Qin family. Chang Gaoya's heart was filled with hatred. If the Qin family members were in front of her, she would immediately kill them. Why did the Qin family snatch Long Luo? The elderly pondered for a moment and said, "Could it be that Long Luo has a special status in the ancestral dragon clan? I heard that the eldest daughter of the ancestral dragon clan has gone missing." That's impossible. Even though Long Luo is from the ancestral dragon clan, her status isn't that high. Chang Gaoya laughed mockingly when she heard that. Otherwise, do you think I would attack Long Luo? No matter how strong the ancestral dragon is, he still has to consider the strength of humans. So, at most they will come looking for trouble. They won't go all out for Long Luo. Of course, things wouldn't be so simple if Long Luo was the eldest young lady of the ancestral dragon clan. Besides, she wouldn't be so foolish to offend that existence. Miss this, how did you know? Chang Gaoya merely smiled faintly in the face of the old man's doubts. I've asked Long Luo before. A pure dragon like her wouldn't lie. She said that she's just an ordinary being in the ancestral dragon clan and not the missing young mistress. The old patient heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. Such an innocent and ignorant dragon would never lie. Therefore, her words had a lot of credibility. If that's the case, we can rest assured. Eldest young lady, should we set off for Qin City now? After all, we can't just give the ancestral dragon to those people from the Qin family. Chapter 2076. Okay. A cold light flashed across Chang Gaoya's eyes. I'm going to ask the Qin family why they had the guts to steal my prey and kill my people. If they don't give me an explanation, I won't let this go. Just as Chang Gaoya was about to settle the score with the Qin family, Yun Luofeng and the others had already appeared outside Qin City. If she remembered correctly, the people who took Lin Ruobai's mother away were the Qin family. Feng, Long Luo had thought of many questions along the way. In the end, when Yun Luofeng stepped into Qin City, she raised her large watery eyes and said with a conflicted expression, "Back then, in order to save me, you killed someone from the Cheng family. The Cheng family will find out sooner or later, when that time comes. It's okay, I'm prepared. Yun Luofeng stroked his chin and smiled. For a moment, Wu Yan and Little Worm looked at Yun Luofeng curiously. Only Yun Xiao remained calm. Prepared for what? Yun Luofeng smiled lightly. Do you remember that the Qin family experts sent people to the Holy Lady clan to capture Old Master and the others? At that time, I took the jade pendants off those people and threw them next to the Cheng family people. I'm sure the Cheng family thinks that the Qin family did it. The corner of Little Worm's mouth twitched. Treacherous. His master was always this treacherous. This was a dog-eat-dog fight between the Cheng family and the Qin family. All she needed to do was sit back and reap the benefits. Make way, all of you, make way. Suddenly, an arrogant shout came from the side. At this moment, Yun Luofeng clearly felt Long Luo's body tighten around her wrist. Her anger was about to explode. But in the end she still held it in. Watch out! Just as Yun Luofeng was muttering, Yun Zhao's voice suddenly came from beside her. Then, an arm reached out and pulled her into an embrace. Right at this moment, countless horses galloped from behind, barging and barging, as if the official road in front of the city gate was their home. In front of that group of people was a woman dressed in luxurious clothes. Her fine black hair flew behind her, making her look very elegant and moving. Yun Zhao's eyes darkened. He raised his finger slightly, and a stream of light shot out from his fingertip, hitting the horse's leg with a bang. The steed let out a tearing cry, bent its legs, and fell to the ground. At that moment, the woman placed her hand on the back of the horse and wanted to flip herself off. But before she could land, a heavy blow suddenly fell from the sky and smashed into her back. As a result, the woman's body fell heavily on the ground. She even fell face first, looking extremely battered and exhausted. Mississippi, the group of guards behind her turned pale with fright. They hurriedly dismounted from their horses and helped Chang Gaoya up. They were so nervous that they did not dare to say a word. Chang Gaoya's face turned from green to white, then from white to green. When she thought about how she had lost face in public, she gritted her teeth in hatred. Qin family, it must be the Qin family. They want to show me who's boss. Other than the Qin clan, who else would do such a thing? Unfortunately, they underestimated me. Chang Gaoya. I will definitely make the Qin family pay for this. Chang Gaoya clenched her fists tightly. She took a deep breath, raised her head and puffed out her chest as she walked into the city gates. Just as Chang Gaoya was about to walk past Yun Luofeng, Wu Yan instinctively hid behind Yun Luofeng and used the woman's back to block her own body. Chapter 2077. That was why Cheng Gao did not notice Speechless' presence. Yun Xiao. How could Yun Luofeng not tell that it was Yun Xiao who had attacked? Her heart was filled with emotion, and her entire heart was surrounded by warmth. She scared you, Yun Xiao said seriously. That was why I taught her a lesson. Hearing this, the corners of Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a playful smile. He teasingly hooked Yun Zhao's chin and gently planted a kiss on his lips. I love it when you stand up for me. No matter what the reason was. Even though she had known Yun Luofeng for so many years, Yun Zhao's face still flushed suspiciously at the woman's blatant teasing. I like you too. Yun Xiao stared unblinkingly at Yun Luofeng. Her expression was very serious. No matter when, I will always be the same. Little Worm was used to the couple's display of affection from time to time. However, Speechless had not interacted with them for long. Hence, when she saw this scene, she was instantly dumbfounded. Was this the ghost emperor who was rumored to be cruel and heartless? To think that he would say such sweet nothings with a straight face. Yun Luofeng coughed lightly and smiled faintly. Yun Xiao, let's go. There should be a good show to watch soon. If not for the fact that Lin Ruobai's mother was still in the Qin family's hands, she would have immediately charged into the Qin family with Yun Xiao. Now, the most important thing was to find Lin Ruobai's mother. The Qin family's great hall. Resplendent gold and jade. Qin Yuan stood respectfully in front of the Qin family's patriarch, Qin Tianlao. Father, I have done as you instructed. The people from those forces are on their way here. I believe they will be here soon. Good. Old man Qin's eyes flashed. I don't believe that we can't kill this woman if all the powerful cultivators of the Windy Continent join forces. Qin Yuan's lips curled. Whenever he recalled how he had left in such a sorry state, his heart would fill with anger and hatred. Patriarch, young master. Suddenly, the old steward quickly walked in and said respectfully, "The eldest lady of the Cheng family, Cheng Gaoya, is here." Cheng Gaoya? Qin Tianlao frowned. The Cheng family's patriarch is not here? Reporting to the patriarch, only the eldest daughter of the Cheng family has come. The old butler lowered his head. His voice filled with respect. "Let her in first." Qin Tianlao waved his hand and ordered. After a while, Cheng Gaoya was led in by the old housekeeper. As soon as she entered the hall, she asked sternly, "What is the meaning of this? Snatching things from our Cheng family? Hand over the dragon Luo immediately. Otherwise, our two families will be irreconcilable enemies." Qin Tianlao, who was still wondering why Cheng Gaoya was here, almost died of anger when he heard what she said. "I don't know what you're talking about. However, if you want to make an enemy out of the Qin family, you should first consider your own strength. At the end of the day, you're only the eldest daughter of the Cheng family. Even if your father was in front of me, he wouldn't dare to speak in such a manner." Qin Tianlao's face turned cold as he said expressionlessly. Cheng Gaoya's gaze gradually turned cold. "Your Qin family really doesn't dare to admit to your actions. You snatched the dragon Luo and even tried to put me in my place at the city gates. Is this how the Qin family treats their guests? If you don't return the dragon Luo to me, I will tell my father and ask him to seek justice for me." Chapter 2078. Qin Tianlao almost spat out a mouthful of blood. What did she mean by putting her in her place? He had just found out that Cheng Gaoya had come to Qin City. How was he going to put her in her place? "Men, chase her out of here." Qin Tianlao pointed at Cheng Gaoya with a trembling finger. If he allowed this woman to stay, he could not guarantee what he would do. Two guards immediately stepped forward to chase Cheng Gaoya out. Seeing that the Qin family was unwilling to exchange the dragon vine, Cheng Gaoya flung her sleeves and turned to leave. She did not even look at the Qin father and son. Looking in the direction that Cheng Gaoya had left, Qin Tianlao took a deep breath. His breathing became unstable. This woman from the Cheng family is too impudent. How dare she cause trouble for the Qin family alone? "Father," Qin Yuan was silent for a moment then said, "Do you really think this is that simple?" "What do you mean?" Qin Tianlao was stunned and fell silent. "I think that Cheng Gaoya must have come here on the orders of the Cheng family master. Perhaps the Cheng family has been unhappy with the Qin family for a long time and is trying to find an excuse to attack us." Qin Yuan frowned slightly. His expression darkened as he thought of this possibility. That's right. Qin Tianlao had been so angry earlier that he did not think too much. Now that he had calmed down, he realized the problem. Cheng Gaoya said that I put her in her place. When did I do such a thing? The Cheng family must have found an excuse. The more Qin Tianlao thought about it, the angrier he became. He gritted his teeth. "I never thought that the Cheng family would be this shameless. Father, it won't be long before the patriarch of the Cheng family arrives at Qin City. We must not let him enter. Otherwise, who knows what problems will arise." Qin Yuan raised his eyes. "So when the time comes, we must stop him outside." This time, Qin Tianlao did not stay silent. He nodded. "All right, we'll do as you say. If he enters the city, it will definitely affect our plan." Poor master of the Cheng family. When he came all the way to Qin City, he was stopped outside by the Qin family. He was so angry that he turned and left Qin City. Later on, Cheng Gaoya added fuel to the fire, creating a deep conflict between the two families. In the inn, Yun Luofeng sat quietly in front of a table while Yun Xiao silently accompanied him. As for Little Worm and Wu Yen, they stood in front of them. "Missy," speechless looked at Yun Luofeng. Perhaps sensing the inquisitiveness in her eyes, she said, "That woman today is actually my half-sister, Cheng Gaoya." This time, he finally opened his heart and decided to tell Yun Luofeng about himself. "And then?" Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and asked. "Back then, my strength was sealed and I was reduced to the limitless continent because of Cheng Gaoya's mother." Yun Luofeng's finger lightly tapped on the table. "That's your family's business. I won't interfere with your business. If you want revenge, you can do it yourself. Right now, I only want you to do one thing. To find out the whereabouts of Lin Ruobai's mother, Mu Qingfei. Only after rescuing her can I make a move against the Qin family. Leave this to me, Little Worm said with a grin. I'm good at finding people. I'll find the person you're looking for very soon. Chapter 2079. Once he had finished speaking, the little worm's body instantly shrank until it was about the same size as Long Luo. Only then did it twist its body towards the door. Wu Yan, what are you still doing here? Yun Luofeng looked at Wu Yan, who was standing in front of him, and asked. Wu Yan was stunned. Can I really go back and take revenge? That group of people had caused him so much harm, he could not possibly forgive them. However, he was now following Yun Luofeng after all. Without Yun Luofeng's permission, he could not go back and take revenge. I'll give you 1 month's time. Yun Luofeng swept a glance at Wu Yan. Come and find me after 1 month. An indescribable feeling welled up in Wu Yan's heart. His eyes were filled with gratitude and his lips moved a few times. Thank you. You don't have to thank me. I only hope that after you and Xiao Ruoshui have fallen in love with each other, you can protect her well and not let anyone hurt her. The woman's voice was cold and evil, but it made Wu Yan's expression gradually turn serious. I, Cheng Wu Yan, always do what I say and never go back on my word. All right, you may leave. Come and find me after you've taken your revenge. Yun Luofeng waved his hand and said calmly. Cheng Wu Yan looked at Yun Luofeng with one last grateful look before he turned and left without another word. Very quickly, he disappeared from Yun Luofeng's line of sight. Yun Luofeng watched Cheng Wu Yan's departing figure in silence, deep in thought. Suddenly, she felt the little fellow in her stomach kick her, causing her brows to twitch. What's wrong? Yun Xiao saw Yun Luofeng's frown and immediately became nervous. He gripped Yun Luofeng's hand tightly, a worried look on his handsome face. It's nothing. Yun Luofeng shook his head, his palm gently caressing the little life in his stomach. This little fellow was kicking me. I'm guessing it can't wait to come out. Yun Zhao's expression immediately turned ugly. His gaze, which was as sharp as a knife, shot towards Yun Luofeng's lower abdomen as he said sternly, If you dare to kick your mother one more time when you come out, I'll immediately throw you into the forest of no return. As expected, this threat was effective. The little fellow who had been kicking Yun Luofeng immediately stopped and waited calmly for its birth. At this moment, Yun Luofeng's stomach was already very obvious. It was round, and it made her waist a little uncomfortable. The soreness was unbearable. Feng if you're really suffering from pregnancy, I don't want children. Yun Xiao carefully hugged Yun Luofeng's body, afraid that she would hurt him if she used too much force. I only want you. Yun Luofeng rolled his eyes at him. If your son hears this, he might not recognize you as his father in the future. Yun Xiao looked straight at Yun Luofeng. To me, there is nothing more important than you. Call him selfish or heartless. In his heart, Yun Luofeng would always be number 1. Even their children could only be ranked second. So if Yun Luofeng's pregnancy really made her suffer so much, then he would rather not have anything. You don't want him, but I do. He is my son. No matter how hard it is, I will not abandon him. Yun Luofeng's expression darkened and his expression became calm. Perhaps he had been angered by Yun Zhao's words. When Yun Xiao saw the woman's angry words, a hint of panic flashed across his face. Feng it's not that I don't love him, I just can't bear to see you suffer so much. If I can get pregnant in your place, if you want 10, I'll give you 10. Chapter 2080. In reality, Yun Luofeng wasn't angry at Yun Xiao, she was just trying to scare him. Who asked this fellow to abandon his son? But, hearing Yun Zhao's flustered explanation, Yun Luofeng couldn't help but laugh. Actually, it's not like there aren't any ways for a man to replace a woman in pregnancy. Are you sure you want to go out with a big belly? Aren't you afraid of people laughing at you? What other people think has nothing to do with me, I just want you to relax a little. Yun Zhao's black eyes carried an unprecedented seriousness. Feng tell me now, what way can I replace you and make you suffer? I'm willing to bear everything myself. All these years, it wasn't that Yun Xiao hadn't done many things that had moved her. In fact, there were many. But at this moment, her heart was truly shaken. She never thought that Yun Xiao could do this. In order to reduce her fatigue, he actually dared to ignore what the world thought and replace her in pregnancy for 10 months? In this lifetime, who else could do this? I was just joking with you. How could there be such a way in this world? Joking? Yun Zhao's hand, which had been pressing on Yun Luofeng's shoulder, trembled slightly. Her expression was indescribable. She was definitely disappointed. But more than that, she felt heartache. Feng if there's a next life, I'll be a woman and you'll be a man. This way, you won't have to endure the pain of being pregnant for 10 months. Yun Zhao's gaze turned from disappointment to seriousness. However, if there's any danger, I'll take care of it for you. Yun Luofeng gently stroked his chin and said with a smile. Yun Xiao, I don't think that the two of us will have a next life. Feng, you don't want to be with me in the next life? No, Yun Luofeng shook his head. We only have this one life. But in this life, we can live until the end of the world. How can there be a next life? You and I, we only have one life. And in this life, we'll live a long life and coexist with the world. As long as the world isn't destroyed, we'll be together. Yun Xiao, Yun Luofeng's expression softened when he saw the heartache in the man's eyes. I've survived so many trials and tribulations. Carrying a child for 10 months isn't too difficult for me. What's more, bearing a child for you is something that I'm willing to do. It's as sweet as syrup. Yun Xiao was silent for a moment before she said, Previously, I looked up some books on women's childbirth. Those books wrote about the hardships of pregnancy for 10 months and the dangers faced during childbirth. More importantly, it was said that pregnant people would feel extremely depressed. Feng you don't need to suppress it. If you're in a bad mood, you can kick me a few times. Don't stifle yourself. Yun Luofeng's face darkened. Where did you read those books? Who gave it to you? Yun Xiao felt a little guilty. Old man Jun. Be good, Yun Luofeng stroked Yun Zhao's face. I'm different from others. With my medical skills, depression and childbirth will not appear. As for Grandpa Jun, I'll settle the score with him when I get back. Really? Yun Xiao was a little doubtful. It should be known that Grandpa Jun had previously said that 10 months of pregnancy was very dangerous. Otherwise, Yun Xiao wouldn't have said that she didn't want this son. When have I ever lied to you? Or are you saying that you'd rather believe him than me? Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and asked with a smile that wasn't a smile. I believe you. Yun Zhao's heart, which had been on edge for so many days, finally settled down after hearing Yun Luofeng's words. Chapter 2081. In a secluded valley. Mu Qingfei sat calmly on a rock. Her cold and indifferent eyes flashed with hatred when she saw the man coming from behind her. What are you doing here again? Fei Qin Yuan's eyes were still affectionate. No matter how indifferent the other party was to him, he couldn't be angry with her. I just missed you, so I came to see you. And I also want to tell you one thing. He hesitated for a while and finally said, My father has gathered many experts in the world to take action against Yun Luofeng. Your daughter has been deceived by Yun Luofeng. It's very dangerous for her to stay by his side. If you're willing, I can bring her here for you and let you two reunite. Mu Qingfei snorted coldly. What's the benefit of staying in the Qin family? Will I be locked up by you for a lifetime? What's more, I won't believe a word of your words. Qin Yuan's face changed. He couldn't help but stretch out his hand and press on Mu Qingfei's shoulder. His eyes were filled with deep pain. Why are you doing this to me? It's been more than 20 years and I still haven't warmed your heart? Is your heart really made of stone? Can't you see everything I've done for you? Qin Yuan's voice was close to a roar and his eyes turned blood red. Then he sensed the change in Mu Qingfei's aura and his expression softened. Fei the Qin family has many children. I've done so many things in order to obtain the sovereignty of the Qin family. I want to give you a noble status so that no one will dare to look down on you. Mu Qingfei glanced at Qin Yuan coldly. Status? Do you think I need this? I just want to stay away from the struggle and live a peaceful life with my beloved. Qin Yuan was stunned. Don't all women like power and status? He planned to conquer the world for her. Why was she still unwilling? Fei if you really don't like this place, I can take you far away and live a peaceful life. Before this, Qin Yuan had already thought about it. If Mu Qingfei wanted to leave, then he would give up everything and accompany her. The premise was that she would allow him to follow her. If there was no Mu Qingfei in this world, then what was the use of the power that he had fought for? Qin Yuan, don't you understand what I'm saying? Mu Qingfei flicked her sleeves and stood up. Her expression was cold and expressionless. What I'm saying is to spend a lifetime with the man I love, not with you. I've never liked you from the beginning to the end. In order to obtain me, you put me under house arrest in this place. Do you think I'll do as you wish? I'm telling you. Even if I die, Mu Qingfei, I will never be your wife. Even if I die, Mu Qingfei, I will never be your wife. Qin Yuan felt as if a heavy stick had smashed down on his head, causing him to feel dizzy. His expression was extremely ugly, and he staggered slightly, as if he would collapse at any moment. Fei, I treated you with sincerity, but you ruined my sincerity. Qin Yuan was completely furious. His palm pressed Mu Qingfei's shoulder tightly as he roared, "If I really wanted to force you, you would have been my wife a long time ago." Qin Yuan was completely furious. His palm pressed Mu Qingfei's shoulder tightly and roared, "If I really wanted to force you, you would have been my wife. The result is that no matter how good I am to you, you won't be moved. So why should I endure you? I'm telling you. Today, I will complete the ceremony of husband and wife with you." When he finished speaking, Qin Yuan fiercely pulled Mu Qingfei into his arms and tore her clothes. Chapter 2082. His eyes were like those of a bloodthirsty beast. They were red and wild, extremely terrifying. Get lost. Mu Qingfei's chest trembled with anger. Her beautiful face was cold as she scolded him rudely. "Qin Yuan, if you dare to touch me, I won't let you go even if I become a ghost." This sentence was said while Mu Qingfei was gnashing her teeth. The hatred in her eyes made Qin Yuan's hand tremble. He unconsciously let go of his hand and looked at Mu Qingfei with a pair of hurt eyes. "I, Mu Qingfei, would rather die a broken jade than live in dishonor. If you force me, then you can only collect my corpse." Mu Qingfei wasn't afraid of Qin Yuan's actions. Her cold eyes were filled with coldness as she stared coldly at the man standing in front of her. Qin Yuan smiled. His smile was very bitter and filled with helplessness. "I had originally thought that I would be able to let go of my feelings for you and force you to become my wife after hearing your heartless words. However, in the end, I still couldn't bear to force you." More importantly, he didn't want Mu Qingfei to leave this world. Qin Yuan gently closed his eyes. A long while later, he opened them again. His eyes were filled with a struggle. "I also understand that no matter what I do, I will only receive your cold words. Since that's the case, why should we continue to be entangled in this? If you want to leave, then leave. I won't force you anymore." In this life, she was his calamity. He couldn't escape even if he was poor. If he could start over, he hoped that he would never meet this heartless woman again. This time, it was Mu Qingfei's turn to be surprised. She asked in disbelief, "You're really willing to let me go? Leave before I return." Qin Yuan closed his eyes again. His body was trembling violently, for fear that he would go back on his words. Mu Qingfei took one last look at Qin Yuan. Her face was no longer as cold as before. Instead, she relaxed. From the beginning to the end, Mu Qingfei didn't say a word to Qin Yuan. It was just that her heart didn't hate him as much as before. Hee. Just as Mu Qingfei was about to leave, an old laughter suddenly came from the void. It shocked Qin Yuan and he immediately opened his eyes. In the void, an old man walked out. His steps were strong and vigorous, and he didn't look old at all. His aura was like that of a transcendent being. He stood with his hands behind his back, his white robes fluttering in the wind. He was extremely powerful. "Father!" Qin Yuan's expression suddenly changed. Why did his father appear at this time? Qin Tianlao's gaze swept across Qin Yuan. "Yuan, you've really disappointed me. I thought you've turned over a new leaf and are no longer the spoiled brat you used to be. However, I never thought that you would want to obtain the Qin family's power for this woman." Hearing this, Qin Yuan turned pale with fright. How long has father been here? What did he hear? But that's not all. I didn't expect you to be so useless. You can't even deal with a woman and were forced to let her go. Qin Tianlao lifted his chin and looked down at Qin Yuan in a condescending manner. His voice was bone-chilling, like a cold wind blowing past. "Father, there's no point for Fei to stay in the Qin family. Why don't we just let her leave? I'm confident that she will fall in love with me." Qin Yuan's body was covered in cold sweat, and his face was pale. He lowered his head, not daring to look at Qin Tianlao. Is it really useless? Qin Tianlao slightly raised the corner of his lips. I heard that there's a little girl beside Yun Luofeng. This little girl is the daughter of Mu Qingfei. Do you think that Mu Qingfei is useless to our Qin family? Chapter 2083. Qin Yuan raised his head in shock and looked at Qin Tianlao in astonishment. He didn't seem to understand how his father knew about this. Do you really think I'm at ease with you? Qin Tianlao sneered. Ever since you came back, I've been inquiring about what happened. I also found out that the people of my Qin family lost their lives in the Sacred Lady tribe. If I remember correctly, Mu Qingfei was the Sacred Lady tribe's matriarch, and the current young matriarch of the Sacred Lady tribe is Yun Luofeng's disciple. More and more cold sweat appeared on Qin Yuan's face. He was so nervous that he didn't dare to say a word. Yuan, I really didn't expect you to hide so many things for a woman. Qin Tianlao shook his head, his tone filled with disappointment. Thump. Qin Yuan immediately knelt down and crawled toward Qin Tianlao. Father, I know I was wrong. Please forgive me. I will never make such a mistake again. As he spoke, he hugged Qin Tianlao's leg, his eyes filled with pleading. But in the next second, the spirit energy in his hand suddenly turned into a shackle, firmly locking Qin Tianlao's leg. Fei, leave quickly. Qin Yuan hurriedly turned around and shouted at Mu Qingfei. Leave quickly. The array on the back mountain hasn't been activated yet. You can leave directly. Mu Qingfei was stunned. She looked at Qin Yuan, who was hugging Qin Tianlao's leg tightly. Her eyes were filled with complicated emotions. Yuan, you betrayed me for this woman? Qin Tianlao still had his hands behind his back, looking sage-like. His eyes were filled with iciness as they landed on Qin Yuan's body like knives. Father, I'm sorry. Fei, is the woman I love the most in my life. No matter how many mistakes I make and how many people I kill, I don't want her to die in your hands. Qin Yuan knew his father's character. After knowing that Lin Ruobai was Mu Qingfei's daughter, he would definitely not let Mu Qingfei go. After all, many people in the Qin family had died in the hands of Yun Luofeng's subordinates. You think you can trap your father with your little ability? You're really dreaming. Qin Tianlao raised his hand and slammed it down on Qin Yuan's head. With a loud bang, a powerful force penetrated through Qin Yuan's head, causing blood to flow down. You should also know that what I hate the most in my life is betrayal. Even if you are my son, I will not forgive you. Qin Tianlao did not hesitate, as if the person in front of him was not his biological son. Qin Yuan's body stiffened and he fell backwards. His gaze swept towards Mu Qingfei with nostalgia. With a bang, he fell to the ground and lay on the ground with his limbs facing the sky. Qin Yuan. Mu Qingfei's heart was touched at this moment. She quickly ran towards Qin Yuan with a complicated look in her eyes. Why did you save me? Fei, how good would it have been if the person who took you away from the 7 continents wasn't me? That way he wouldn't have fallen in love with her at first sight. And Fei, wouldn't have fallen to such a state today. Don't say anything. I'll take you away. All these years, Qin Yuan had put Mu Qingfei under house arrest. Therefore, she hated him in her heart. But no matter how much hatred she had, it all disappeared after the other party sacrificed so much without complaint or regret. Mu Qingfei lowered her body and trembled as she helped Qin Yuan's body up from the ground. Even her voice was trembling. Chapter 2084. Cough, cough. Qin Yuan coughed twice and coughed out a mouthful of blood, making his originally pale face even more bloodless. Fei, if my death can make you remember, then I will have no regrets in my life. He pushed Mu Qingfei away forcefully and his body staggered and fell to the ground. Also, I lied to you before. Your daughter was not deceived. Yun Luofeng is very good to her. If you can escape, you can find Yun Luofeng. She will protect you. When a person is about to die, his words are kind. As long as Mu Qingfei can live, then he is willing to tell Mu Qingfei the truth. What's more, only she can protect Fei now. Qin Yuan. Mu Qingfei's lips moved slightly. Thank you. No matter how many wrong things Qin Yuan has done, he has never hurt her from the beginning to the end. Instead, he did his best to protect her. This word of thanks seemed to make Qin Yuan very satisfied. A smile appeared on the corners of his mouth as he slowly closed his eyes. There was no longer any regret in his heart. Mu Qingfei gently closed her eyes and clenched her fists tightly. After a long time, she suddenly opened her eyes and shot a sharp gaze at Qin Tianlao. Why did you do this? He is your son. Even a vicious tiger will not eat its cubs. Why did you kill your own son? Traitors can only die. Qin Tianlao sneered. Of course, as a father, I will definitely be more lenient to my son. So I will satisfy his wish. Doesn't he like you very much? Then you go down and accompany him. Boom. In an instant, Qin Tianlao's aura surged out and with a bang, a powerful spiritual energy was shot towards Mu Qingfei. Under such a powerful aura, Mu Qingfei's body could not move. She could only watch the attack in front of her. Roar! At this time of crisis, a dragon's roar came out, shaking the entire sky. Then the spiritual qi that had been attacking Mu Qingfei was instantly dissolved, turning into specks of light that drifted in the air. Everyone was stunned. But when Qin Tianlao looked up, a huge body directly rushed down from the void. Without saying a word, it picked up Mu Qingfei's body and quickly rushed out of the Qin family. A Divine Lord Realm ancestral dragon? People from the ancestral dragon clan? No, the ancestral dragon clan's divine monarch does not have this dragon. Qin Tian thought for a while and immediately ordered, Men, inform the god monarchs that have reached Qin City. Let them encircle and annihilate this ancestor dragon. The ancestral dragon clan's blood essence was very precious, especially the ancestral dragon at the Divine Lord realm. Therefore, as long as they were told that the ancestral dragon had appeared, these humans would never give up. Qin Tianlao's eyes were filled with greed at the thought of this. Then he quickly rushed towards the ancestral dragon. On the street, the noisy crowd had already dispersed at some point, leaving behind only silence. Carrying Mu Qingfei, Little Worm shot into the distance at lightning speed, heading towards the inn where Yun Luofeng was staying. From time to time, he would look at the people chasing after him, and a hint of savagery flashed across his eyes. Swish, swish, swish. Suddenly, countless figures appeared out of thin air, surrounding Little Worm in the middle. These people were all at the Divine Lord realm. Although Little Worm was also a Divine Lord, and with the body of the ancestral dragon, he was also one of the best among the Divine Lords. But after all, he had just broken through to the Divine Lord realm not long ago, so he did not have enough control over his power. In addition, he was not facing 1 or 2 Divine Lords, but 7 or 8 of them. This made him feel a little powerless. Chapter 2085. Let's see where you're going to run to. Qin Tianlao had already caught up from behind and blocked Little Worm's way. He lifted his head gently and looked at it expressionlessly. Although I don't know what your relationship with Mu Qingfei is, but I know that you definitely won't leave Qin City today. Roar! Little Worm roared and said angrily, You bunch of bastards, what's the matter with you bullying a woman? My master and mistress are already on their way here. When they arrive, all of you will be wiped out. After escaping from the Qin family, Little Worm had told Yun Xiao what had happened here through spiritual telepathy. Yun Xiao and Yun Luofeng were already on their way here. Unfortunately, Qin City was too big. Compared to the 7 continents, it was a continent away. If they wanted to rush here, they would need time. A look of understanding flashed across Qin Tianlao's eyes. If I'm not wrong, you're someone by Yun Luofeng's side, the Sir God that my son mentioned. Humph! Little Worm snorted. His claws were still holding Mu Qingfei, so he did not dare to be careless. What does it have to do with you who I am? Just the few of you are not even enough to fill the gaps between my teeth. Extremely arrogant. Qin Tianlao snorted. Let's go together and capture this ancestral dragon alive. As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Tianlao's body shot out like a bolt of lightning. In the blink of an eye, he was above Little Worm. His hand was like a machete as he slashed down fiercely. Luckily, Little Worm's eyes were sharp and he quickly dodged the attack. With a sweep of his tail, he swiftly swept Qin Tianlao's body away. Qin Tianlao felt a fishy taste in his mouth, but he forcefully held it back. His gaze towards Little Worm was filled with murderous intent. You're courting death. At the same time, the other Sir Gods also made their moves. Everyone launched their attacks. For a moment, Little Worm seemed a little powerless under the encirclement of these people. These bastards, how dare they hit me? Little Worm's body was punched, and it was so angry that its huge body trembled in the air. Its tail also swept the group of people back a few steps. Mu Qingfei was caught by the little worm's claws, but she didn't dare to move, for fear of affecting the ancestral dragon's battle. If you can't cope with it, put me down first and get reinforcements. Mu Qingfei hesitated for a while and suggested. This suggestion completely infuriated Little Worm. What do you mean by that? You're saying I can't even protect a woman? If I were to abandon you and run away, how would I have the face to continue living on the continent? He spoke as if he had never run before. Little Worm had completely forgotten how he had lied to the Dragon Clan and escaped when a certain divine spirit expert had come looking for trouble with him back when he was in the Dragon Clan. Now, he was actually concerned about his reputation? However, Mu Qingfei did not say anything after hearing Little Worm's words. Her eyes turned cold and filled with murderous intent when she thought of Qin Yuan's death. Little Worm was in a sorry state, and those divine monarch experts did not gain any benefits. Qin Tianlao's expression was very ugly. He didn't expect the ancestral dragon to be so thick-skinned. No matter how he hit it, it didn't hurt. If this continued, Yun Luofeng and the rest who were nearby would definitely rush over. He didn't forget that Qin Yuan had once said that Yun Luofeng had two Sir-gods. Chapter 2086. Just as Qin Tianlao was feeling anxious, the sky suddenly turned dark as if a layer of dark clouds had shrouded the entire sky. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked over in shock. In an instant, they could see that in the sky, there were countless huge dragons swimming over. Their bodies were huge, like huge mountains. If they were to accidentally fall from the sky, they would definitely be able to crush a large group of people to death. It's the ancestral dragon clan. Qin Tianlao turned pale with fright. His eyes flickered as he looked at Little Worm in front of him, deep in thought. Patriarch Qin. A muffled voice was heard from the void. The voice was very old, as if it had come from a few centuries ago. It was like thunder exploding in Qin Tianlao's head, causing his ears to ring. May I know if you're Long Yan from the ancestral dragon clan? Qin Tianlao asked immediately after hearing the other party's identity. That's right, it's me. The giant ancestral dragon's voice was faint. I heard that you have news about the eldest miss of the ancestral dragon clan, so I rushed here. If you can tell me the truth, no matter what request you have, the ancestral dragon clan will fulfill your wish. The ancestral dragon clan had always kept their promises. Back when the eldest miss had gone missing, they had announced to the world that if anyone could find the eldest miss, the ancestral dragon clan would fulfill any of their requests. Elder Long Yan, did you not see what we're doing? Qin Tianlao's eyes flickered as he looked at Little Worm. I wonder if this ancestral dragon is from the ancestral dragon clan? Long Yan looked at Little Worm in surprise. He thought for a while and shook his head. I don't know him. Qin Tianlao heaved a sigh of relief when he heard that, but his expression remained unchanged. I saw the eldest miss next to this kid previously. In order to encircle him, I did not hesitate to seek help from other Sir-gods. I didn't expect this kid to deny it. However, although he is a traitor of the ancestral dragon clan, I'm willing to punish him on your behalf. Everyone was a little dumbfounded. They really admired Qin Tianlao's ability to lie. However, everyone on the mainland knew the temperament of the ancestral dragon clan. If these people from the ancestral dragon clan found out that the purpose of them besieging Little Worm was for his blood essence, the people from the ancestral dragon clan would never let them off. Therefore, they could only pour dirty water on the Little Worm. Long Yan's huge dragon eyes narrowed slightly as a powerful aura pressed down like a huge mountain. His sharp eyes immediately looked towards Little Worm. You're the one who abducted the eldest miss of our ancestral dragon clan? You're willing to believe humans over your own kind, so I have nothing to explain. Little Worm snorted and said mockingly. Long Yan looked at Qin Tianlao again and asked, Patriarch Qin, are you serious about what you said? You should know the consequences of deceiving our ancestral dragon clan. Qin Tianlao's expression changed. He held his breath and said, Elder Long Yan, I'm being kind and thinking for your ancestral dragon clan. Are you still doubting me? I, Qin Tianlao, am an open and above-board person. I would never frame someone. Moreover, if I wanted to deal with this dragon, I alone would be enough. Did I have nothing better to do so I gathered so many powerful human beings? Wasn't it because I wanted to force him to teach the eldest miss? In the end, my good intentions were not rewarded. Chapter 2087. Under Long Yan's questioning gaze, Qin Tianlao's expression was filled with grief and indignation as if he was an innocent man who had been wrongly accused. Long Yan turned to look at Little Worm again and frowned. If the eldest lady of the Dragon Clan is really in your hands, I hope that you can return her to the Dragon Clan. Little Worm's eyes were filled with indescribable disappointment. Before this, he had been filled with fantasies about the ancestral Dragon Clan and had even dreamed of the day he could return to the clan. But now, he felt an indescribable disappointment in his heart as he faced Long Yan's sharp gaze. I haven't even seen the eldest lady of the ancestral Dragon Clan. What right do you have to say that I've taken her away? Little Worm narrowed his eyes as a fierce light flashed through his dragon eyes. He raised his head and stared at the huge dragons that filled the sky as he spoke fearlessly. Master Qin's words are not unreasonable. If he wanted to deal with you, he wouldn't need to gather so many people and wouldn't need to accuse you. Long Yan's elderly voice was gloomy. However, on account that we're both from the ancestral Dragon Clan, hand over the eldest lady and I'll let you go. I guarantee that I won't hurt you at all. The Dragon Clan was arrogant. Once they had set their mind on something, even 10 oxen could not pull them back. Little Worm had a deep feeling about this. Hence, he could not be bothered to waste his breath on these people. A cold smile hung on his face as he said, I'd like to see how you're going to deal with me. Roar! A dragon's roar reverberated through the heavens and earth as Little Worm charged towards Long Yan in a flash. His movements were as swift as a gust of wind. You overestimate yourself. Long Yan scoffed, but he did not retreat. Instead, he charged towards Little Worm. Both of them were huge and they were both from the ancestral Dragon Clan. So, their bodies collided and caused a tremor in the void. It was as if the entire void had exploded and the surrounding people were pushed 2 steps back by the force of the collision. Qin Tianlao's lips curled into a pleased smile. The ancestral Dragon Clan was considered an overlord on this mainland. Even if the few of them joined forces, they might not be Long Yan's match. If it had not been for the change that had happened to the ancestral Dragon Clan, causing the entire clan to disappear, the entire mainland would have been the ancestral Dragon Clan's world. Even so, the ancestral Dragon Clan's strength was not something they could fight against. Bang! Little Worm quickly retreated a few steps back. He could feel his internal organs hurting terribly, and his vision was starting to blur. The ancestral Dragon Clan, Yen, and Long Mu Qingfei sneered and looked up at the arrogant face of Elder Long Yen. You can't distinguish between right and wrong. Just because of one person's words, you determine the crime of others. He said that we took the fucking Missy away. But what evidence does he have? Long Yen said, Long Yen said, Yen Long Yen said, Long and said, Yen Long as Yen, Yen he said. Long Tianlao, long as long ago he has said. Said Yen he long said. Dragon Yen who said, I Qin Tianlao have not settled the score with me for seducing my son. How dare you be so arrogant in front of Elder Long Yen? Qin Tianlao's eyes were filled with murderous intent. I saw with my own eyes that this dragon abducted the eldest miss of the Dragon Clan. How can it be fake? Who in the world knows that I, Qin Tianlao, am magnanimous in doing things? I have never lied. Chapter 2088. That's right, Patriarch Qin wouldn't lie. It must be this dragon who refuses to admit it. I've seen the eldest lady of the Dragon Clan before. Patriarch Qin wasn't the only one. The others chimed in. Now that they were in the same boat, they would naturally help Qin Tian. The smile on Qin Tianlao's face deepened. He noticed the anger in Long Yan's eyes and he felt even more pleased. The ancestral Dragon Clan was nothing more than this. They were actually left in the dust by this group of humans. The Dragon Clan had always been isolated from the rest of the world and did not know the evils of the human heart. I'll give you one last chance. Hand over the eldest lady of the Dragon Clan. Otherwise, don't blame me for not considering our kinship. Long Yen raised his head arrogantly. His voice was like thunder that resounded in the void. I'll say this for the last time too. I don't even know the name of the eldest lady of the Dragon Clan and I've never seen her before. Little Worm did not back down. There was no fear in his eyes. Instead they were open and honest. Humph. Long Yen snorted and his aura spread out, causing the originally dark sky to be covered with dark clouds. It was so gloomy that it was difficult to breathe. I've given you a chance but you didn't cherish it. You can't blame me. Roar! As soon as he finished speaking, Long Yan let out an angry roar and a flame gradually began to grow from his mouth. In the end, it turned into a dazzling fireball as bright as the sun and instantly shot towards the little worm. Little Worm's eyes were solemn. He quickly used his claws to protect Mu Qingfei when he saw the sudden dragon breath and used his thick body to block the attack. Bang! The attack landed heavily on Little Worm's body, causing him to tremble and almost spit out a mouthful of dragon blood. They were both Sir Gods. However, their abilities were not on the same level. Little Worm's body trembled and he looked furious. The ancestral dragon clan is so unreasonable. I'll never return to the ancestral dragon clan. The ancestral dragon clan doesn't care about your existence. The number of divine monarch powerhouses in this continent could be counted with one's fingers. Even so, it didn't mean that he was willing to accept the little worm. A dragon who dared to do something but did not dare to admit it had no right to enter the ancestral dragon clan. Roar! Another dragon's breath rushed towards the little worm. The little worm wanted to dodge, but the dragon's breath seemed to have eyes of its own. It turned to the side and once again landed a heavy blow on its body. Fresh blood seeped out of his dragon scales, causing his huge body to sway for a moment, but he quickly steadied himself. Fortunately, he was also a divine lord. If he was only an ultimate god, he would have been turned into ashes by that powerful dragon breath. At this moment, not only did Little Worm have to face the opponent's attack, he also had to protect Mu Qingfei. As a result, he was unable to resist the dragon's breath and could only use his thick body to block it. Why isn't Master here yet? Little Worm became increasingly anxious. He had never thought that the ancestral dragon tribe would interfere in such a matter. If this were to continue, he was afraid that, sooner or later, he would not be able to hold on. Boom! Boom boom boom! Explosions could be heard from time to time in the sky. Everyone could not help but burst into laughter when they saw Little Worm being beaten up in the void. Mu Qingfei, are you regretting rejecting my son now? Qin Tianlao curled the corner of his lips. Without my son's protection, you won't be able to survive on this mainland. It's funny that you don't know what's good for you. You're simply digging your own grave. Chapter 2089. Mu Qingfei didn't pay any attention to him. She was protected by the little worm in front of her, and her expression became more and more worried. Finally, under Long Yan's attack, Little Worm's body could not withstand his powerful strength and he fell from the sky, landing heavily on the ground. Fresh blood kept flowing out of his mouth, and his eyes were filled with anger and intense hatred. I'll give you one last chance. Where is Eldest Miss? Long Yan lowered his head and looked straight at Little Worm, who had fallen to the ground. His voice was emotionless and very cold. Although they were both divine lords, there was a huge gap between them. For example, Little Worm had only broken through to Divine Lord not too long ago, but he had already stayed in this Divine Lord realm for hundreds of years. How could a little worm compare to the control of power in such a way? Little Worm closed his eyes and no longer paid any attention to this huge dragon. He never thought that at this moment, the cowardly him was not thinking of escaping but of giving this stupid dragon a vicious beating. Looks like you're still determined not to tell me where Eldest Miss is. Since that's the case, don't blame me for being rude. Long Yan roared and his body dived towards the ground. He was very fast, like a sun charging down from the sky. Very soon, he was about to collide with Little Worm who was lying on the ground. Boom! At this moment, a black stream of light suddenly appeared in front of Little Worm. The man was dressed in a long black robe. He raised his palm gently and blocked Long Yan's sharp claws. A murderous intent gradually appeared in his cold eyes. Long Yan was stunned. His claws were blocked tightly by the other party's hand and could not get any closer. Little Worm, who had been lying half dead on the ground, saw the two people who had descended from the sky. Tears flowed from his eyes and he cried pitifully, "Master, Mistress, you're finally here. If you hadn't come, I'm afraid you wouldn't be able to see me in this lifetime." His tone was extremely pitiful and when he looked at Long Yan, his eyes were filled with anger. This stupid dragon believed that old fart from the Qin family and said that I hid the eldest miss of the ancestral dragon clan. I haven't even seen their eldest miss, so why would I hide her? I will never go back to this kind of dragon race in this lifetime. Long Yan's eyes darkened. He ignored the little worm and looked at the cold man who had appeared out of thin air. He said coldly, "Are you all trying to meddle in other people's business?" "No." Yun Luofeng slowly walked to Yun Zhao's side, the corners of his lips curled into a demonic smile. We're not here to meddle in other people's business, we're here to kill you. Kill you? Long Yen laughed heartily. Little girl, what an arrogant tone. I want to see what ability you have to kill me. This man was also at the Divine Lord realm. How could a mere human contend against the ancestral dragon clan? He was simply courting death. When Little Worm heard this, he immediately jumped up from the ground. His body was enveloped by a burst of light, and in a moment, he had turned into a handsome and adorable little Shota. Mistress, this fellow bullied me. You must kill him and cut him into pieces. Pan-fried. Little Worm glared fiercely at Long Yen. His gaze was as if he wanted to eat him alive, wishing that he could skin him alive. Mu Qingfei stood at the back and stared at the woman in white in front of her. There was a complicated look in her eyes. Chapter 2090. This woman. Was this the master of his daughter that Qin Yuan had mentioned? The other dragons in the sky also moved upon hearing the commotion. Their huge bodies covered the sky as they stared at Yun Luofeng and the others. A battle between the two sides could break out at any moment. Long Yen roared angrily and ordered the dragon guards behind him to attack first. The wind and clouds in the sky surged and the atmosphere was monstrous. It was also at this moment that a delicate shout was suddenly heard, piercing through the clouds and falling into everyone's ears. Stop! Light flashed on Yun Luofeng's wrist and the crystal-like bracelet began to move. Long Yan's gaze had been on Yun Xiao at first and he had not paid much attention to Yun Luofeng. Naturally, he did not notice the existence of the little crystal snake. The little snake left Yun Luofeng's wrist and jumped onto the ground. Her body gradually began to expand and after a while, a huge crystal dragon appeared in their line of sight. The crystal dragon's transformation didn't stop. Her body was shrouded in light, and within this light, a cute and pretty loli slowly walked out. Long Yan's face was full of shock and his eyes widened rapidly. Joy appeared in his eyes, but it quickly turned into anger. There's another dragon? Qin Tianlao's eyes were filled with surprise but he quickly regained his composure. So what if you have another dragon? You can't escape death. Lord Long Yen, this female dragon is in cahoots with them. You'd better get rid of them all. Under Qin Tianlao's disdainful words, Long Yen shouted angrily. You bastard, didn't you say that you've never seen my eldest miss? Does this count as catching her red-handed? It was like being struck by lightning. Qin Tianlao was completely stunned and his body stiffened. What did Elder Long Yen mean by that? Catching her red-handed? What did that mean? As if he had thought of something, Qin Tianlao's head turned somewhat mechanically, and he stared in shock at the little girl who was walking toward Long Yen. It couldn't be such a coincidence, could it? He had only deliberately said this to frame these people. Who knew that they had really hidden the eldest miss of the ancestral dragon clan? Compared to them, Little Worm was even more confused. Long Luo was the eldest miss of the ancestral dragon clan? Wait! Long Yen seemed to have thought of something all of a sudden. He turned to look at Qin Tianlao and said in a cold voice, Didn't you say that you saw my eldest miss beside this kid? Then what did you mean by your words just now? How dare you say that my young miss is in cahoots with these people? Qin Tianlao shuddered fiercely and could not help but sweat profusely. Elder Long Yen, I just did not recognize them for a moment. Now that they are caught red-handed, you must kill this group of people. Long Luo glanced at Qin Tianlao before shifting her gaze to Long Yen. Grandpa Long Yen, is there a need to muster so many people just to find me? He even made things difficult for some innocent people. Eldest miss, you don't know how sinister the human heart is. Many people are unreliable, not to mention you're so innocent. Since I'm here, you should leave with me. Long Yen raised his head and swept his gaze over Little Worm and the others. Since you've appeared, I won't make things difficult for them as long as you leave with me. Long Luo held back her anger and said angrily, The human heart is indeed sinister, especially these people here. How dare you believe their words and make things difficult for Little Worm and the others? Eldest miss. There was a hint of anger in Long Yan's voice. Master Qin is right. Aren't you right beside them? Even now, you still want to argue for this group of people? Chapter 2091. Qin Tianlao smiled smugly. He had hit the nail on the head. This time, Long Yen would never believe Yun Luofeng and his group. At this moment, Yun Luofeng had already given Yun Xiao a meaningful look. Yun Xiao nodded gently at her, and the aura around her body gradually rose. I won't go back with you. If it weren't for Miss Yoon and the rest, I would have died long ago. But not only are you not grateful to them, you even attacked Little Worm. Someone like you, who can't differentiate between right and wrong, has no right to educate me. Long Luo pushed Long Yen away in a fit of pique and walked back to Yun Luofeng's side. Her large eyes were still burning with anger and her body was trembling with anger. Long Yan's voice deepened. What happened? Life-saving grace? Could Eldest Miss have met with danger? Long Luo looked angrily at the humans present. Whenever she thought of how they had framed Little Worm, she could not help but feel anger rise in her heart. She had just appeared. What if she wasn't here? Would the ancestral dragon clan hunt down Yun Luofeng and his group because of this misunderstanding? You want to know why? Alright, I can tell you. I really didn't know who she was. I saved an ingrate, but she captured me and forced me to spit out my blood essence. These injuries on my body are also caused by her. Long Luo lifted her sleeves, revealing the scars on her body. These injuries were actually almost healed. Otherwise, she would not have been able to transform into a human form. But even so, Long Yen knew how many injuries Long Luo had suffered these past few days. His eyes suddenly narrowed as anger surged out, causing the entire sky to seem as if it was on fire. Luckily, I escaped when no one was paying attention. But those people caught up very quickly. If they hadn't saved me, perhaps I would already be dead. Long Luo still had some lingering fear from what had happened that day. She bit her lip tightly and her small body trembled in the breeze. At this moment, a hand landed on her shoulder as if silently comforting her. She turned back and flashed a bright smile at the little boy behind her. This flowery smile dazzled Little Worm's eyes and actually caused him to be unable to return to his senses. Long Yen, who had initially been aggressive, immediately became somewhat embarrassed when he heard Long Luo's words. His voice was no longer as arrogant as before. If that's the case, it's just a misunderstanding? Fortunately, Patriarch Qin told me about you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to find you. Speaking of this, Long Yen felt somewhat fortunate. His heart was filled with gratitude towards Qin Tian. Unexpectedly, Long Luo's little face was filled with even more disdain when she saw his expression. Grandfather Long Yen, you've been sold and you still want to help them count the money? I've never seen him before. When did he see me? Qin Tianlao's expression changed. He laughed awkwardly and said, Lady Long, you didn't see me, but I clearly saw you staying with this dragon. It's just that you don't remember me. Tell me, why didn't you recognize me just now? Didn't I explain it already? You were too far away from me just now, so you didn't see it for a moment. Qin Tianlao endured the killing intent in his heart and smiled slightly. Long Luo tilted her head. Then can you tell me what I looked like when you saw me? What does it look like? How would he know? Although he thought so in his heart, Qin Tian would never show it. Chapter 2092. Young Lady Long, you must be joking. How you are now is how you were back then. Qin Tianlao smiled and defended himself. However, Long Luo could not help but laugh the moment his words rang out. Grandpa Long Yen, don't tell me that you don't know that it's impossible for our dragon clan to take human form after we're injured? I've been recuperating ever since I met Miss Yoon and the others. It's only just now that I was able to take human form. Little Lolita raised her chin high and looked at Qin Tianlao with disdain. Long Yan's body flashed and turned into an old man standing in front of little Lolita. He frowned and stared at Qin Tianlao coldly. I know that this Miss Mu Qingfei is the woman your son likes and your Qin family has put her under house arrest. However, Miss Yun's disciple is her daughter, so Miss Yun came to find her. In order to deal with Miss Yun, you want to use the ancestral dragon clan. Am I right? Little Lolita smiled innocently. Her words were like pearls, making Qin Tianlao's face turn paler. Elder Long Yen, your young lady of the dragon clan has gone too far. She clearly had an affair with that dragon. In order to protect him, she splashed dirty water on me. Qin Tianlao's eyes flickered as he reprimanded. How dare you? Bang! Long Yen bellowed and punched Qin Tianlao, forcing him to take a few steps back. My young lady never lies. Qin Tianlao, I didn't expect you to use me like this. After saying that, Long Yan's furious eyes swept across the others. The murderous intent in his eyes made everyone tremble in fear. Even if they were all divine emperors, however, they did not have the ability to fight against the second-ranked expert of the ancestral dragon clan. Elder Long Yen, this matter has nothing to do with us. It's all Qin Tianlao's idea. They told me that an ancestral dragon had appeared. If we capture it, we can force it to spit out blood essence. By then, we can increase the strength of all the major forces. We were also fooled by him. Elder Long Yen, let us go. Look for that bastard Qin Tianlao if there's any problem. Everyone chimed in one after another, immediately selling Qin Tianlao out. Long Yen ignored them and turned his gaze towards Little Worm and the others instead. I'm very sorry for what happened earlier. Thank you for saving my eldest lady. The ancestral dragon clan will definitely repay your life-saving grace. The power of the ancestral dragon clan was one of the best in the continent. Therefore, Long Yen concluded that this group of people would absolutely not make things difficult for him. You injured Little Worm. Do you think an apology will solve the problem? Under Long Yan's arrogant gaze, Yun Luofeng raised her lips slightly. Her fingers gently stroked her chin as a dangerous glint flashed in her narrowed eyes. Then I'll beat you up and then apologize. I wonder if that's all right? Long Yan's expression changed. Little girl, where it is possible to forgive people, one should forgive them. This matter is indeed my fault, so I won't argue with you. The smile on Yun Luofeng's lips deepened. As someone on the wrong side, what qualifications do you have to argue with us? Long Luo bit her lip and glared at Long Yan. She was on Yun Luofeng's side, so she was very angry with Long Yan's words. You. Long Yan took a deep breath and asked through gritted teeth, then what do you want? Chapter 2093. I have always been a vengeful person. Yun Luofeng glanced at Long Yan coldly, his face expressionless. Let him bully the little worm the same way you bullied him. You. Long Yan's heart was filled with anger. He pointed at Yun Luofeng angrily, his eyes filled with anger. If this group of people had not saved Long Luo, he would not have been so courteous. Whoosh! Yun Xiao suddenly moved. His movements were as fast as a gust of wind. Before Long Yen could react, he was already behind him and slammed his palm down. Long Yen turned pale with fright and quickly turned around to block the man's attack. However, just as their attacks collided, he felt his whole body go numb. He took a few steps back and his expression changed from the initial astonishment to a cold one. The next time you point your finger at my woman, I will make sure you have no fingers left. Yun Zhao's voice was very cold and filled with murderous intent. At that moment, Long Yen was so shocked that he could not extricate himself. If he was not wrong, this man had just become a divine lord not too long ago. Why did his heart tremble under his aura? Fear. Yes. An emotion called fear gradually spread in Long Yan's heart. Yun Yi. Yun Luofeng calmly instructed. In an instant, Yun Yi's sturdy and mighty body fell from the sky and hit the ground hard. The moment they saw Yun Yi appear, the divine lords among the humans changed their expressions. Some even shouted at Qin Tianlao angrily. Didn't you say that there were only 2 divine lords among them? What's going on now? Can you give us an explanation? Qin Tianlao's face was pale and his body was about to collapse. He used all his strength to support himself against the tree behind him and barely managed to stabilize himself. In terms of numbers, you think you can beat the Dragon Clan? Long Yen was so angry that his face was ashen. He roared, Men, capture all these people who dare to humiliate me. Grandpa Long Yen. Long Luo's face was filled with anxiety. She looked at the huge group of dragons in the sky and gritted her teeth. I'm here. Let's see who dares to attack. Long Luo was the eldest young lady of the Dragon Clan after all, so the restless dragons were stunned when they heard her words. They stopped in the air as if they were thinking about something. Hee, Long Yen sneered. Don't forget before the clan leader let us out, he instructed you to listen to my orders in everything. He then looked at Long Luo and continued, Eldest lady, don't worry. I'm just teaching them a lesson. They're your saviors after all. I won't kill them. Roar. A thunderous roar shook the entire sky. Long Yan's old face was cold. What are you waiting for? Capture this group of people for me. In that instant, the dragons all moved. The pressure they exuded was immense, as though there were countless mountains piled up in the void. The pressure made it difficult for people to breathe. All of a sudden, a storm was brewing. Yun Luofeng stood under the strong wind with her white clothes fluttering in the wind. She was as beautiful as a painting. Her dark eyes were calm and emotionless. The giant dragon clan does have a lot of experts, but you're the only Sir God among the dozens of dragons here. Yun Luofeng smirked. If we're comparing ultimate gods, I'd like to see who's better than me. Boom. Chapter 2094. As soon as Yun Luofeng finished her sentence, a powerful aura rose from her body. At the same time, the spirit beasts in the divine grimoire space and the people from the Steel Flame Legion in the illusory formation all appeared. Fire, Little Mo, Cha-Cha, Xiao Shu, and Bai Xiao who could leave the Tree of Life for a short period of time. Those spirit beasts were comparable to the ancestral dragon's aura. Even some of the people from the Steel Flame Legion had reached the ultimate god realm. Long Yan's expression became even uglier the moment the huge team appeared. He clenched his fists tightly with an obscure light in his eyes. As a member of the Dragon Clan, Long Yan was very arrogant. Similarly, he would not fight a battle he was not confident in. In particular, he could feel that Yun Zhao's aura was not inferior to his. Little worm, how did he treat you just now? You can return it now. Yun Luofeng took 2 steps forward as a powerful aura burst out. His white robes fluttered in the wind. If anyone tries to stop you, kill without mercy. She did not care who the other party was or where he came from. She only knew that if he hurt her, she would pay him back. Long Luo did not say anything. Although she was from the ancestral dragon clan, she did not think that Yun Luofeng was wrong. All of this was the result of Long Yan's stupidity. Therefore, no matter what Yun Luofeng wanted to do to him, he should bear it. Eldest miss. Long Yan's expression was ugly as he turned to Long Luo as if he wanted her to stand up and say something. Long Luo turned her head and deliberately did not look at Long Yan's eyes, but she snorted coldly in her heart. Long Yan was too arrogant. He was so lawless just because he was the second strongest person in the Dragon Clan. It would be good to teach him a lesson this time. Miss. Long Yan's gaze fell on Yun Luofeng again with a threatening light in his narrowed eyes. Let people off when possible. I, Long Yan, am the second strongest person in the ancestral Dragon Clan. Few people can defeat me even in the Divine Lord realm. If you really want to fight me, I won't let you off even if I die. The dignity of the Dragon Clan could not be violated. He did not want to retreat even if he was not confident in this battle. Why didn't you think of this when you were dealing with the little worm? Yun Luofeng closed in on Long Yan once more. Now that this has happened to you, you're saying that one should forgive where possible? How could there be such a good thing in this world? Long Yan's eyes flashed. When he saw that Yun Luofeng was getting closer and closer to him, his arm suddenly turned into a dragon claw and swiped at Yun Luofeng. Unfortunately, before he could reach Yun Luofeng, a black figure had already landed in front of him. A fist, as hard as a rock, landed heavily on Long Yan's chest with a bang. Long Yan was instantly forced back a few steps, his face so dark that it looked like a storm was brewing. The ancestral dragons also moved at this moment. Their huge bodies swung towards the people on the ground. Qin Tianlao and the rest were affected as well. They were flung away by the tails of the ancestral dragons and fell to the ground in a sorry state. At this moment, the wind and clouds changed and thunder rumbled. The dragon's roar resounded throughout the sky, causing the residents of Qin City to hide themselves. They were afraid that this battle would affect them. Chapter 2095. A battle was about to break out. Just as the enormous dragon charged towards Yun Luofeng's group, a low and raspy voice gradually rang out in the air. It was like a heavy hammer, causing Long Yan's heart to feel as if it had been hammered, causing him to nearly vomit a mouthful of blood. The ancestral dragon clan is really daring. How dare they kill humans in my territory? Do they have any respect for me? As soon as he finished speaking, an elderly figure appeared in the sky. The old man stood with his hands clasped behind his back. He looked indifferent, sage-like and righteous. Qin Tianlao was elated when he saw the old man. However, he immediately swallowed his words when he saw the old man's eyes. You're a ruler? Long Yan's face changed when he saw the old man and fear flashed in his eyes. In this world, there was a type of person known as a ruler. A ruler was the ruler of the wind and cloud continent, the first person below the true god level. As they already had 1 foot in the true god level, their power was not something a Sir God could compare to. Just like the clan leader of the ancestral dragon clan, he was also a ruler. However, He was alone and naturally could not fight against these humans. Otherwise, he would not have been forced to hide in the ancestral sea and could not step out of it for the rest of his life. If it was not for the sake of finding the eldest lady, they would not have left the ancestral sea. It seems like the ancestral dragon clan has forgotten the agreement. How dare they invade our territory? This is unforgivable. Boom. The old man merely raised his hand, and Long Yan's body flew out in an instant, as if he had been pushed by something. He fell to the ground pathetically and looked at the old man in front of him with an ugly expression. "Miss," the old man turned to look at Yun Luofeng and said with a smile, "as a human you are of course under the protection of humans. So, you don't have to be afraid. These people from the ancestral dragon clan have no way of fighting back against me." The old man's words were polite and friendly. For some reason, Yun Luofeng's heart surged with murderous intent when she faced the old man in front of her. Even she did not understand where this murderous intent came from. "Master," little Mo muttered to himself for a moment before replying, "have you forgotten that you once obtained Zhu Qian's inheritance?" The ruler of the Wind Cloud continent was the person who had once surrounded Zhu Qian. A cold light flashed in Yun Luofeng's eyes. She grabbed Yun Zhao's hand tightly and restrained the murderous intent in her heart. "Then shouldn't I thank you?" Her lips curled into a smile. Her voice was soft and ethereal as it slowly rang out. "There is no need to thank me." The old man did not hear the sarcasm in Yun Luofeng's voice at all. He smiled and said, "It's just that I think highly of your talent. I wonder if you would be willing to be a guest at my house?" In that instant, all the humans present looked at Yun Luofeng with envious eyes. They didn't know what kind of dog's hit luck this woman had, to be able to obtain the ruler's favor. If the ruler had taken a liking to them, then their futures would be limitless. "If I were to go with you, would I still be able to return?" Yun Luofeng sneered and retorted rudely. Yun Xiao did not say anything as he silently protected Yun Luofeng from the side. His cold eyes held a hint of vigilance as he stared at the old man. This old man was too powerful and was not on the same level as Long Yan. At the same time, Yun Xiao felt a sense of danger. Chapter 2096. The old man's eyes narrowed slightly and an obscure light flashed through them. Then he smiled and said, "Miss, what do you mean by that? I only thought that you were talented and wanted to groom you. I didn't think that your vigilance would be so strong that you actually thought that I would hurt you." In a few steps, he walked down from the sky and stood in front of Yun Luofeng, facing the wind. "I think that this lady is right. This time, you're just setting up a trap." Suddenly, a faint voice was heard. In that instant, everyone couldn't help but look over. It was an extremely handsome man. He was as beautiful as an immortal who had walked out of a painting. His entire body shone with light. The man held a flute in his hand. With light and slow steps, he gradually walked from a short distance to everyone's eyes. When Yun Luofeng saw the man, an inexplicable expression appeared on her face. Moreover, her eyes never left the man's body. Yun Xiao hugged Yun Luofeng's waist in jealousy. "You can just look at me. This man looks so weak, there's nothing good to look at." His voice carried a strong sense of jealousy. Yun Luofeng retracted her gaze. "I just feel that. He looks like someone I know." Yun Xiao was a little confused. Someone familiar? What kind of acquaintance does Feng have that he hasn't seen before? Zhu Qian. As if sensing Yun Zhao's confusion, Yun Luofeng's thin lips parted slightly and he spat out this name. Zhu Qian. He never thought that they would meet again under such circumstances. "You are." The old man frowned slightly. It was obvious that he couldn't tell who this man was. "Actually, I don't know who I am either." The man smiled. His smile was very gentle, but it carried a feeling of keeping people at a distance. "Besides this identity, I should have another identity. I've come here today because of this feeling. Can you tell me who I am?" The old man's eyes darkened but his expression did not change. "I don't care who you are. Why did you frame me just now?" "Frame me?" The man flashed an immortal smile, looking as if he didn't belong to this world. "Whether or not I'm framing you, I'm afraid you know in your heart. I also know that we're enemies." Who exactly are you?" For some reason, the old man felt a sense of familiarity when he looked at this man. However, when he thought of that person, he suppressed this feeling. Impossible. He couldn't be that person. That person was like a high and mighty king. Even all living beings in the world were trampled under his feet. How could the man in front of her be him? I've said it before. I don't know who I am. I just often hear a voice in my head. The man's calm eyes landed on the old man. That voice called me Ju Qian. Do you know who Ju Qian is? Ju Qian? Boom. The old man's head exploded, and a look of terror appeared in his eyes. Ju Qian actually came back? The man they had once regarded as a demon had actually returned? Back then, Ju Qian had already been ambushed and was seriously injured. However, under the circumstances where all the experts on the continent had been mobilized, he was still able to kill half of them and break through the heavy encirclement. That battle was earth-shattering. From then on, Ju Qian was crowned as a devil. He had originally thought that this man's soul had already dispersed. Who would have thought that he would actually come back? Chapter 2097. Looks like you really do know me. The man's lips curled into a smile. That smile was indifferent and ethereal. It actually seemed so unreal. Was my name in my previous life called Ju Qian? The old man's expression had already calmed down from his initial anger. He laughed mockingly. I don't care what your identity was in your past life. However, I know that you do not have the power to control us in this life. Now that you've delivered yourself to our doorstep, I shall avenge my past humiliation and kill you. Boom. Suddenly, the old man's aura burst forth and he instantly rushed toward Ju Qian. His eyes were filled with killing intent and it was clear that he was determined to kill Ju Qian. The old man's aura was too strong. When he attacked, the surrounding ground was swept up by the hurricane brought by his body. Yun Xiao raised his hand and protected Yun Luofeng in his embrace. He used his sleeves to block the violent hurricane, and his cold eyes carried a stern look. Azure wings! Yun Luofeng shouted when he saw the old man rushing towards Ju Qian. At that moment, Yun Yi's huge body appeared in front of Ju Qian, blocking the old man's attack. Boom! A huge explosion rang out from Yun Yi's body. His body was instantly shaken off. His skin and flesh split open. Fortunately, Yun Yi was a puppet, so even though he already had consciousness, he still did not feel pain. Otherwise, he would have immediately fainted from the pain. Ju Qian, leave this place immediately. Yun Luofeng lifted his eyes and said coldly to the old man in front of him. At this moment, everyone's gazes once again returned to Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao. The old man's expression was a little ugly. He raised his chin slightly and stood with his hands behind his back. He still had the demeanor of an immortal. Miss Yun, I just saved you. Why are you stopping me for the sake of Ju Qian, the traitor of humanity? Yun Luofeng laughed coldly. This is the first time I've heard you speak of your own shamelessness and selfishness so naturally. Today, with me here, don't even think about touching a hair on him. Speaking of which, it was only her first time meeting Ju Qian. However, Ju Qian was her master. Without Ju Qian, she wouldn't have been able to control the array formation and the puppet-making technique. More importantly, from the first moment she met Ju Qian, she was filled with admiration for this man. That kind of respect was not only for Ju Qian's strength, but also for his temperament. Miss, the man turned his gaze towards Yun Luofeng and smiled faintly. Do we know each other? You don't know me, but I know you. She had achieved what she had today by standing on the shoulders of giants. Whether it was the divine medical encyclopedia or the things that Ju Qian had left for her, they had all allowed her to grow very quickly. Humph! The old man had not expected Yun Luofeng to be acquainted with Ju Qian. His expression had already darkened, and he no longer had his initial friendliness and politeness. I originally wanted to groom you, but you are acquainted with this man. If I groom you, it would be the same as adding another enemy to the human race. But, at this point, the old man's tone changed and he continued. If you're willing to draw a line with him, I'm willing to give you a chance. Hearing this, those who were gloating couldn't help but sigh. It was truly infuriating to compare oneself to others. They didn't know how this girl had caught the eye of the ruler. As for her choice, it would certainly be to draw a line with this immortal-like man. Chapter 2098. No one would give up on such generous conditions. Yun Xiao. Yun Luofeng's expression was very solemn. If you fight with this old man, what are your chances of winning? 30%. Yun Xiao answered very truthfully. 30% chance of winning was not impossible. However, Yun Luofeng suddenly remembered that there was not just one person who had attacked Ju Qian. In other words, there were still a few old men with this kind of strength in the spirit god mainland. What if all of them came? Then how confident would they be in this battle? Yun Luofeng's eyes flashed as she laughed coldly. If you really had good intentions and wanted to groom me, you would not have sent the Qin family to cause trouble for me. The Qin family would not have mobilized so many people for a branch disciple. Therefore, from the way Qin Tianlao had looked at the old man, Yun Luofeng could tell that there was something fishy between the two of them. Let me guess. Yun Luofeng stroked her chin, and the smile on her face deepened. I should have something that you want on me, right? And you are the only one who has discovered it for now. The rulers of this mainland have not sensed it. Otherwise, you would not be the only one here today. The old man's eyes were clearly shocked. Even if it was just a flash, Yun Luofeng still caught it. She was even more certain of her guess. Am I right? She raised her brows and smiled faintly. The old man's expression gradually returned to normal. So what if you are? If you die, I'm afraid that no one will know about this. This time, he did not deny it. Instead, he directly exposed his character. Since this girl had come here, he could not let her leave. Yun Luofeng shrugged and smiled. Even if you kill us, there are still others here. Someone will definitely spread the news. Do you really think that you can hide it from everyone in the world? If that's the case, then I'll just kill them all. The old man's tone was very indifferent. It was as if he hadn't killed a person, but an ant. However, the people who had been watching the show immediately became vigilant when they heard this. Some of them even instinctively stood together and looked at the old man warily. They didn't think that a promise would be effective against such a powerhouse. Now that he said such words, he would definitely do such a thing. Yutian. Long Yen roared, don't forget, our dragon clan also has a ruler. Even if you humans rely on your numbers to kill our ancestral dragon clan. However, the strength of our ancestral dragon clan is still there. If you dare to touch us, the clan leader will not forgive you. The old man called Yutian glanced at Long Yen indifferently. I already have a way to deal with this. Do you think you have the chance to tell the ancestral dragon clan who the murderer is? Also, when I kill someone, I never let anyone find out that I was the one who killed them. After these words were spoken, Yutian's killing intent intensified. Even the entire sky darkened, as if it was enveloped by a layer of dark clouds. Yun Luofeng quietly looked at everything in front of him. The words she had just said were to put everyone on the opposing side of Yutian. Long Yen had remained fearless from the moment she had revealed her power. This meant that he must still have some trump cards up his sleeves. Now, after these words, the Dragon Clan and Yutian had completely become enemies. Then they would be a little safer. Yun Shao naturally understood Yun Luofeng's intentions right from the beginning. Hence, he only stood quietly by the side and looked at the beautiful woman next to him with a gentle gaze. Chapter 2099. Long Yan's face turned from green to white, then from white to green. He glared angrily at the cold and arrogant old man. Have you forgotten the agreement between the humans and the ancestral dragon clan many years ago? Agreement? Yutian smiled mockingly. What does that have to do with me? Anyway, no one will know that I was the one who killed the dragon clan. Isn't that enough? After saying that, he turned his gaze towards Yun Luofeng. A cold light flashed in his eyes. If you had been willing to leave with me, then so many things wouldn't have happened now. So, you can only blame yourself for not being sensible. In the beginning, he had not intended to use violence against Yun Luofeng. That was on the premise that Yun Luofeng would listen to him and leave with him. But now, this woman's temper was too unyielding. Being soft definitely wouldn't work, so he had to use force. When Long Yen heard this, he was so angry that his entire body trembled. He waved at Long Luo and said, Eldest miss, come to my side immediately. I want to see how this group of people can shake the dignity of the Dragon Clan. Long Luo bit her lip and stood quietly beside Yun Luofeng. It was as if she had not heard Long Yan's words. Her large eyes were filled with stubbornness. Eldest miss. Long Yen could not help but shout again. His tone was anxious. I won't. Long Luo's eyelashes were very long and fluttered like wings. Her large clear eyes were filled with determination, and her adorable little face was flushed pink. I want to be with Miss Yun. When she was in danger, it was this woman in white who descended from the sky and rescued her. From then on, She worshipped Yun Luofeng as a god. Yu Tian's body had already moved. He was very fast and was about to reach Yun Luofeng and the others in an instant. Yun Xiao was also ready to fight. But at this moment, Long Yan took a quick step forward and blocked Yu Tian. The other party's powerful energy penetrated his body and it exploded with a bang. His body was also thrown out like a rag. Long Yan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and stood up from the ground. His body swayed a little as he staggered towards Yu Tian. Very quickly, he walked over to Yu Tian's side. With his back facing Yun Luofeng and the others, he said, "I know that you saved the eldest Mississippi. I also know that based on our previous conflicts, I can't possibly beg you for anything. However, on account of the fact that eldest young lady chose you when she was in danger, you should bring eldest young lady away from here quickly. I will block him with the ancestral dragon clan." Long Yan's back was very stiff and his steps were slightly heavy, but he did not take a single step back. That's right, the conflict between him and Yun Luofeng was very deep, and he had also hurt the little worm. But Long Luo was the eldest daughter of the ancestral dragon clan. He was also the target that all the dragons had to protect with their lives. If the young miss could leave safely, he was willing to entrust her to Yun Luofeng. "You reptiles want to stop me?" Yu Tianyi raised his hand and his power surged out like a light wave, once again bombarding Long Yan's chest. Long Yan's body quickly flew out and he spat out a mouthful of blood with a wah sound. He could not stop it no matter how hard he tried. "Grandpa Long Yan." Long Luo hurried to Long Yan's side. Her eyes filled with worry. No matter how big of a mistake Long Yan had just made, his loyalty to the Dragon Clan would never change. Yun Luofeng looked at Long Yan, who was unable to get up, and frowned slightly. Could it be that she had guessed wrong? Did Long Yan not have any hidden cards? I'll publish one chapter first. There will be many more soon. Chapter 2100. Cough. Long Yan coughed again and spat out a mouthful of blood. His elderly face was pale. He pushed Long Luo aside and shouted, "Eldest lady, leave now." He staggered forward a few steps and almost fell to the ground. However, he managed to steady himself and his elderly body was like a mountain. "Leave." Yu Tian's expression was still calm, but a cold glint flashed in his eyes. "I'm afraid you won't have the chance." When Yu Tian's aura grew stronger and stronger, the heavens and earth changed color and the sun and moon lost their light. It was as if a layer of dark clouds had shrouded the sky, causing everyone standing on the ground to feel a deep pressure. Yun Xiao protected Yun Luofeng firmly as she stared coldly at Yu Tian with an expressionless face. "Little Worm, Yun Yi, and Xiao Mo. Bring Mu Qingfei and Long Luo back to the illusory array immediately." Under Yu Tian's aura, Yun Luofeng felt an unprecedented sense of danger. At a time like this, the only thing she could do was to minimize the casualties. "Mistress." Little Worm's mouth twitched unwillingly. It was true that Little Worm was afraid of death, but when faced with true danger, he was unwilling to abandon Yun Luofeng and the others. Yun Yi's expression was a little bashful, but he was also unwilling to flee at the last minute. "Master, I'm a puppet." He hesitated for a moment before speaking in a hoarse voice. Puppets were immortal and had no sense of pain. However, as a puppet, if his bones were turned into ashes, no matter how powerful Yun Luofeng was, he would not be able to come back from the dead. "Go back, this is an order." Yun Luofeng's voice carried an unquestionable determination as he shouted fiercely. The other spiritual beasts were also very unwilling as they stood behind Yun Luofeng, unwilling to leave. "If it's just me and Yun Xiao, we're confident that we can come out unscathed. The few of you here will only distract us." Yun Luofeng's tone was very strict and it stunned the spiritual beasts. Their hearts were filled with grievances. However, they also knew that Yun Luofeng was speaking the truth. This time, they did not resist. They grabbed the clueless Long Luo and Mu Qingfei and hid in the illusory array. Similarly, the Steel Flame Legion was also persuaded to return. On the entire street, other than the Sir Gods who had surrounded Little Worm, there were only her and Yun Xiao, as well as Grand Preceptor Feng Jin, who was Zhu Qian's reincarnation. As for the ancestral dragon clan, finally, Yun Luofeng looked at Long Yan and asked, "Do you have the confidence to defeat him?" Her voice came from within his soul, causing Long Yan to be taken aback. He looked at Yun Luofeng with a complicated expression and said, "Actually, I've already informed our patriarch. He's on his way here. What I need to do is stall for time." I asked Eldest Miss to leave just now because I was afraid that she would be in danger before the clan leader arrived. Stall for time? Yun Luofeng's eyes darkened as his gaze gradually turned towards Yun Xiao. Leave it to me. He held her hand and said firmly, I won't let you be in danger. The man's words made Yun Luofeng's heart filled with warmth, and the corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl up. All right, I believe you. She believed in Yun Xiao. She believed even more that as long as this man was here, any danger could be resolved. Yun Xiao slowly retracted her gaze from Yun Luofeng and turned her grim gaze towards Yu Tian. Her expressionless face grew even colder. Chapter 2101. Puppet. Yu Tian's eyes flashed with an obscure light as he said slowly, So that kid was a puppet. I actually didn't realize it. Even Zhu Qian didn't have the ability to let a puppet have human thoughts. How did you do it? Yu Tian was very curious about this question. If he could control this ability, from then on, there would only be one ruler in Spirit God continent. You want to know? Yun Luofeng's lips curled up. Perhaps, you won't have the chance in this lifetime. Yu Tian's expression turned cold as the storm that surged out of his body became stronger. In the dark void, a thunderclap came crashing down, smashing a pitch-black pit on the ground. Refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. Since that's the case, don't blame me for being ruthless. Feng, be careful. When Yu Tian's power erupted, it was as if there was an invisible hand that destroyed everything around him. At that moment, Yun Xiao. He couldn't care less about fighting with Yu Tian. He immediately turned around and protected Yun Luofeng in his arms. He pressed her head tightly against his shoulder. The moment the power destroyed, those with weaker defenses were directly sent flying by the aura. Under the horrified gazes of the others, they gradually lost their breath. Yu Tian didn't even move his hand and those god lords lost their lives. How could such a powerful power not be terrifying? Qin Tianlao's first thought was to escape. However, his legs kept trembling and he couldn't move. He could only look at Yu Tian in horror. Fortunately, Yu Tian didn't care about him at all. He didn't even bother to look at him. His eyes were fixed on Yun Luofeng, who was protected in Yun Zhao's arms. His expression didn't change. Tell me, what is the relationship between you and Zhu Qian? At the same time, Feng Jin also turned his head. His handsome face revealed a puzzled expression. Miss, you know me too? Yun Luofeng's body gradually left Yun Zhao's embrace. The corners of his lips curled up slightly. I know you, but I also don't know you. Logically speaking, I should call you Master. Master? Feng Jin's expression became more and more puzzled. It was obvious that he was thinking about something. I keep feeling that I have forgotten something, but he couldn't remember what it was at the moment. Zhu Qian, you're actually still alive? Yu Tian's gaze finally landed on Zhu Qian again. There was an obvious flash of surprise in his eyes. Zhu Qian was only a piece of trash right now. So, why was he able to survive under his own power? Compared to her, I must kill you first. Very soon, he regained his senses and a murderous aura surged out. His body was like a bolt of lightning as he shot towards Feng Jin. Feng Jin was still immersed in his own thoughts and didn't notice Yu Tian in front of him. His brows were tightly furrowed as he thought hard about the things he had forgotten. Be careful! Yun Luofeng hurriedly shouted. Yun Xiao was also about to make a move. However, at this moment, a silver figure pounced from afar and blocked in front of Feng Jin. The opponent's attack also passed through his body and exploded in his chest. Puff! The young man had a head full of silver hair and his long robe fluttered in the wind. There was a mournful smile on his face as he fell from the sky like a beautiful flower petal into Feng Jin's embrace. Chapter 2102. It's you! Feng Jin's heart ached when he saw the pale-faced youth in his arms. That kind of pain felt as if it had crossed an entire century, causing his heart to clench fiercely. Mo Qianqing? Yun Luofeng also saw the youth in Feng Jin's arms and was stunned. Why are you here? Cough, cough. Mo Qianqing coughed as blood flowed continuously from his mouth. His originally clear eyes were now covered in a faint white mist. He turned his head with difficulty and stared unblinkingly at Yun Luofeng. Actually, I should have realized a long time ago that you are not Zhu Qian, he laughed. His laughter was filled with bitterness and helplessness, as well as a deep pain that ordinary people couldn't detect. But I have been deceiving myself all this time. Even though you have told me many times that you were lying to me, I have always told myself that you are Ju Qian. Because I have waited for so many years. Even if it was just a fantasy. Enchanting slowly closed his eyes as a teardrop fell from the corner of the youth's eye. After a long time, he opened his eyes and looked at Feng Jin with infatuation and longing. Ju Qian, I have finally met you. Even though your personality has changed greatly, you are still the man that I want to pursue for the rest of my life. For you, I have no regrets in life and death. Feng Jin's hand froze and he lowered his eyes slightly. Even though I don't remember you, I clearly know that there is definitely an unusual relationship between us. So I will not let you die. Ju Qian, I never thought that I would be able to see you in this lifetime. I also never thought that I would die in your arms. This kind of ending is the best for me. After he said this, Enchanting slowly closed his eyes. His breathing was very weak, as if it would disappear at any time. I said that you cannot die, so no one can let you die. At this moment, Feng Jin didn't sense the tremble in his voice. He only knew that he couldn't let Enchanting die here. Move aside. Yun Luofeng slowly walked to Feng Jin's side and said, "Let me take a look at his injuries." Feng Jin was stunned. He turned his head and met the woman's clear eyes. He nodded and said, "Okay." After he finished speaking, he had already retreated to the side. However, his brows were still filled with worry. His 5 viscera and 6 bowels have been shattered, and he has no way to recover. Yun Luofeng looked at Enchanting's injuries and continued, "However, there is another way to save him." As soon as she finished speaking, Yun Luofeng raised her hand, and a dark green fruit appeared in her hand. "This is something I obtained from the Beast Continent's Dragon Clan. It has the effect of reviving the dead. As long as the time of his death is less than an hour, I can save him." As he spoke, Yun Luofeng's heart throbbed. If she had rushed back to the 7 continents earlier, perhaps Hong Luan would not have died. Even if she was already dead, she could still pull her back from the netherworld. Yun Luofeng no longer thought about it. He took a deep breath and forcefully stuffed the fruit into Enchanting's mouth. "I know that you are not dead. Eat this fruit and you will recover immediately." Enchanting raised his head tiredly. He turned his head and saw Feng Jin's sorrowful eyes. He slowly nodded. When Feng Jin heard Yun Luofeng's words, his heart was already at ease. He slowly walked to Enchanting's side and held his hand tightly. Then, he turned to look at Yun Luofeng. Chapter 2103. Thank you, Mississippi. If you can save him, I will do anything for you unconditionally for the rest of my life. At this moment, there was only one thought in Feng Jin's mind, and that was to never let Ju Qian leave him no matter what. However, just as Feng Jin's heart settled down, the hand that he had been holding gradually slipped and fell to the ground with a thud. "What's going on?" Yun Luofeng's expression changed and she quickly stepped forward. She grabbed Enchanting's chin tightly and forced him to open his mouth. At that moment, a small, dark green fruit fell from Enchanting's mouth, completely unharmed. Yun Luofeng's eyes gradually darkened when she saw this. "It looks like he's determined to die. He had purposely not taken the fruit that I had given him." Feng Jin's handsome face turned pale at this moment. His eyes stared at Enchanting in disbelief as he asked in a trembling voice, "Why?" Suddenly, Feng Jin seemed to remember something and immediately turned towards Yun Luofeng. "Didn't you say that a dead person can be saved within an hour? Then think of a way to save him now. As long as you can save him, I'll promise you anything. Even if he had to give up his life, he would be willing to give it up." Yun Luofeng bent down and picked up the fruit. She then placed it next to Enchanting's lips, and the spiritual energy in her palm gradually gathered towards the fruit. In an instant, the fruit turned into a green liquid and slowly flowed into Enchanting's mouth. However, Enchanting seemed to have made up his mind to die. Even though he had already lost his life, he still could not allow the liquid to flow into his mouth. Yun Luofeng's brows were tightly furrowed. After a long pause, she withdrew the liquid which was enveloped in spiritual energy. Her expression was very solemn. There's no way to save him." It wasn't that she was incapable of saving Enchanting. Rather, to a person who was determined to die, no matter how capable she was, she could not possibly save him from King Yama's palace. Boom! Feng Jin seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. His handsome face was now completely pale and colorless. He lowered his head to look at the youth lying in a pool of blood, and the pain in his heart poured out uncontrollably. Why did you do this? Feng Jin lowered his body and slowly lifted Enchanting up from the ground. His expression was filled with gentleness and regret that he had never shown before. Are you doing this to take revenge on me? Although I don't know how I've hurt you, I know that you're the one I've been searching for. His slender fingers gently caressed that handsome face. His expression was very gentle. Do you think you can leave me like this? No, you won't get what you want in this lifetime. Feng Jin carried Enchanting's corpse and slowly walked towards the back. As he walked to Yun Luofeng's voice, he paused for a moment. Using a voice that only the two of them could hear, he said, Even if I don't remember the things of the past, however, in the instant that Enchanting died, I suddenly remembered a fragment. I seem to have left something behind in the Endless City. That thing will definitely be of help to you. Endless City? Yun Luofeng was startled. Wasn't this Endless City her secret in the Wuhui continent? Zhu Qian left something in Endless City? It seemed that she had to make a trip back to Endless City after leaving this place. Chapter 2104. You want to leave? Yu Tian snorted coldly, intending to stop Feng Jin and Enchanting from leaving. However, at this moment, Yun Xiao suddenly stepped forward and blocked Yu Tian's attack. Yu Tian's eyes were cold as he shouted, Get lost! Boom! His strength was very strong, so strong that it was enough to destroy heaven and earth. However, under his powerful strength, Yun Xiao only took 2 steps back as he stared expressionlessly at the old man in front of him. Yu Tian's eyes flashed with a trace of astonishment. He hadn't expected Yun Xiao to be able to block his attack, however. He quickly calmed down. The hurricane lifted his long robe, making him look like an immortal. Yun Xiao. Yun Luofeng looked at Yun Xiao worriedly as he clenched his fists tightly. Others couldn't tell, but Yun Luofeng, who understood Yun Xiao very well, knew that the attack just now had already injured Yun Xiao's body. He just wouldn't show it. This man, no matter how badly injured he was, wouldn't show a trace of it in front of the enemy. Instead, he endured it. You better not be a busybody. Otherwise, after I kill Zhu Qian, the first person I will kill will be you. Yun Xiao didn't reply and took the initiative to attack. His speed was very agile, like a leopard in the dark. His cold eyes carried a decisive sharpness. Yun Luofeng looked at Yun Xiao, who was fighting with Yu Tian, then turned to Long Yan and asked in a low voice, How much longer until your Dragon Clan leader arrives? I'm not sure. If the clan leader doesn't encounter any unexpected situations along the way, there should be about an incense stick's time. An incense stick's time? Yun Luofeng gently stroked his chin and gently narrowed his eyes. An incense stick's time is already enough. The moment his voice fell, he summoned the dragon scale armor and a long sword appeared in his hand. His body flashed as he shot towards Yu Tian like a bolt of lightning. Boom! Yu Tian, who was fighting with Yun Xiao, didn't notice Yun Luofeng coming from the side. It wasn't until Yun Luofeng neared him that he suddenly saw the imposing demonic aura, and hurriedly dodged to the side. At the same time, his palm landed on Yun Luofeng's chest. Yun Luofeng quickly retreated a few steps and fell into a warm embrace. Yun Xiao will hold him back. Yun Luofeng's brows sank as he slowly said. They only needed to hold on for the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. All right. Yun Xiao agreed without asking anything. He released the body in his embrace and his cold eyes once again looked towards Yu Tian. The sky was overcast. After Yu Tian sneered twice, his body suddenly disappeared in mid-air. In the blink of an eye, he was already behind Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao. The aura on his body transformed into a sharp long sword that slashed down from mid-air with an irresistible force. Boom! Yun Xiao hugged Yun Luofeng and dodged to the side, evading Yu Tian's attack. The place where they had just been standing was left with a deep ravine by the fierce sword wind, as if the entire ground had been split open. But before they could react, Yu Tian moved again. On the streets, the surviving humans were cowering to the side, trying to reduce their presence as much as possible. Especially those who had gone against Yun Luofeng when they heard Qin Tianlao's order. They were so scared that they didn't even dare to breathe. Chapter 2105. These two people were able to remain unscathed under the attack of a powerhouse like Yu Tian. Just how tough was their strength? If they had fought against them just now, how good would the outcome have been? The crowd's resentment towards Qin Tianlao rose at the thought of this, and they glared fiercely at him. Compared to these people, Qin Tianlao's expression was even uglier, and his heart was filled with hatred towards his dead son. If that bastard had not lied about Yun Luofeng's power, he would not have sent people to surround him. Now, after witnessing Yun Luofeng and Yun Zhao's power, cold sweat began to form on his forehead. In the sky, the battle was growing more and more intense. The crowd could only see a few figures in the sky, but they were unable to capture their movements. Yun Luofeng's power was becoming weaker and weaker. She quickly took out a spiritual medicine and consumed it. Unfortunately, she had consumed too many spiritual medicines, and the spiritual medicine no longer had the initial rapid recovery effect. Fenger, watch out! Suddenly, a strong force rushed towards her, and then she fell into a warm embrace. His black robes fluttered in front of him as the man protected her tightly in his arms. His handsome face was right in front of her, so clear. Boom! The old man's hand suddenly landed on Yun Zhao's shoulder. This time, Yun Zhao could not hold back the blood that was surging endlessly in his heart. A mouthful of bright red blood sprayed out and splattered on Yun Luofeng's face. Yun Luofeng's pupils shrank. Yun Zhao. Fenger, it's all right. I'll protect you. Even in the face of such a situation, Yun Zhao still used his gentle voice to comfort her. He raised his hand and gently wiped away the tear in the corner of the woman's eye. He then said gently, "Trust me, I'll let you leave this place safe and sound." Yun Zhao. Yun Luofeng held Yun Zhao's hand tightly. Her lips trembled gently. "What are you doing?" Yun Zhao lowered his gaze and planted a gentle kiss on Yun Luofeng's forehead. His voice was gentle and warm. "I'll never go back on my promise to you." He slowly released the woman in his arms and slowly walked towards the old man. At that moment, the man's aura changed. There was a murderous intent in his callousness, as if a sharp sword had pierced through a person's heart. Furthermore, his aura was still rising non-stop, but it was very chaotic, causing Yun Luofeng's heart to clench. "Yun Zhao." Her voice caused the man's footsteps to stop, but in the end, he did not turn around, his back to the woman behind him. "Fenger, I, Yun Zhao, have no regrets to be able to meet you in this life." Yun Zhao. Yun Luofeng's expression darkened. "I don't care what you want to do, but before that, you must fulfill the promise you made to me. You said that if I don't let you die, then you will never die. If I let you die, you won't even frown. Your life belongs to me. Without my permission, who allowed you to risk your life? Besides, I, Yun Luofeng, am not such a weak and incompetent person. I order you to follow me for the rest of your life and never give up. If you can't do it, I'll never see you again in this lifetime." The woman's words pierced the heart and caused the man to stop in his tracks. Because his back was facing Yun Luofeng could not see his expression. Yun Zhao. Yun Luofeng looked at Yun Zhao and continued. "You said that you won't go back on your word. Then, you can't give up on your previous promise either." Chapter 2106. Moreover, you're not a person who doesn't keep his promises. In that moment, Yun Zhao seemed to have forgotten the promise he had made back then. How could he have the heart to go back on something he had promised? Hehe. Yu Tian was not in a hurry to be moved. He smiled sarcastically. "Even in such a situation, you don't forget to express your love? I, Yu Tian, am not a heartless person. Since that's the case, I can let you all speak your fill." Yun Luofeng lowered his eyes and slowly walked to Yun Zhao's side, holding his hand tightly. "Yun Zhao, I believe that even if you don't put your life on the line, we will still be able to survive." Yun Zhao looked at Yun Luofeng with a complicated expression. "Fenger, to me, there is nothing more important than you being alive. Even if he had to give up his life, he was willing. I will not allow you to do this." Yun Luofeng's face darkened, but when he saw Yun Zhao's expression, he calmed down. "Could it be that you want us to become orphans and widows?" A hint of heartache appeared in Yun Zhao's eyes. He had already forgotten that if Yun Luofeng didn't exist in this world, then the entire world wouldn't attract him at all. And Yun Luofeng was definitely the same. "Have you said enough?" Yu Tian didn't give the two a chance to speak. He smiled coldly. "Since you've said enough, I'll send you to the Underworld to be a pair of mandarin ducks." In an instant, Yu Tian rushed towards Yun Luofeng. His killing intent was awe-inspiring and incomparably powerful. Yun Luofeng's fingers caressed her stomach, and a trace of gentleness appeared in her demonic eyes. After a long time, she raised her head and faced the incoming attack. Boom! Seeing that Yu Tian was about to reach Yun Luofeng, Yun Xiao raised her hand, wanting to pull Yun Luofeng over. But at this moment, a golden light shot out from Yun Luofeng's body. This light shot straight into Yun Xiao, piercing through the layers of obstruction. This golden light formed a protective layer around Yun Luofeng's body. When Yu Tian's palm landed on this protective layer, there seemed to be a strange power that bounced back his strength, slamming him into the ground. Fresh blood flowed from the corner of Yu Tian's mouth. His eyes were filled with shock as he stared unblinkingly at Yun Luofeng's abdomen, which had already become visible. The others were also stunned. Didn't Yu Tian want to hurt Yun Luofeng just now? Why did he injure himself? While everyone was trying to figure out what had happened, the golden light that had enveloped Yun Luofeng had already disappeared. The dark clouds had also been dispersed by the golden light, revealing the azure sky. What Yun Luofeng didn't know was that in his lower abdomen, a small life was smiling brightly. This was as far as he could help her. That power was all the spirit chi he had left behind in the past. It could create a protective layer for the mother's body. If the mother's body was in danger, the protective layer would be activated and the power attacking the mother's body would be reflected back. The stronger the attack, the greater the reflected damage. This was also the reason why Yu Tian was injured. Thinking about how he was going to be born in a few months, the little life smile became even brighter. Unfortunately, once he was born, his past memories would disappear. Thus, he could only use his limited time to reminisce about his wonderful life. Roar! Right at this moment, a dragon's roar rang out from the distance. This dragon's roar shook the entire world, causing the entire sky to tremble. It's him. Why has this old fellow rushed over? Yu Tian's expression changed drastically. He looked at Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao, and a dark light flashed across his eyes. I'll forgive you this time. Next time, I definitely won't let you off.